This meeting is called to order. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Cons,
Here.
Mrs. Shandy,
Here.
Mr. Wilburn,
Here.
Mrs. Yanez,
Here.
Mr. Salt.
Here. The Pledge of Allegiance tonight will be led by Mr. Wilburn.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Matson-Bonet, are there any updates to the agenda?
There were updates to the agenda and the board was notified of these.
Thank you. Members of the board, are there any items you wish to move from the consent agenda? Are there any items to be added to the agenda? May we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Cons,
Aye.
Mrs. Shandy,
Aye.
Mr. Wilburn,
Aye.
Mrs. Yanez,
Aye.
Mr. Salt.
Aye. The board quote tonight is Mr. Wilburn's.
Our quote tonight is from Frederick Douglass. It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men.
Thank you. Does anyone have any board comments this evening? Ms. Cons?
I just wanted to say Happy New Year to everybody and give a little preview of a book that the board and cabinet at least have started reading called Results Now 2.0. And I was at page 32 when I texted Superintendent Haberer a lengthy paragraph about how excited and thrilled I was about this book. Gather my notes here. So this book is about meeting our achievement goals head on. That's all about focus on effective instructional practices. And it does this by pulling back the curtain on the shortcomings of the educational system. It empowers us to help students achieve at remarkably high levels. And he promises very quickly too, if we utilize all of these evidence-based researched practices. Just some of the main points. He has 3 main points that we should focus on: curriculum, literacy, and effective instruction, which we already hear a lot about in this district and do a lot of. So it's in line. It's just it's kind of giving a resurgence of passion for this work. Specifically under literacy, he offers evidence about having reading, writing, and discussion and discourse that should be occurring daily in every subject, and we'll see spectacular gains. So it's an empowering and hopeful book. I'm so thrilled that we have an amazing superintendent that is passionate about this work and sharing it with us. And I won't go into all the gushing I gave Superintendent Haberer yesterday, but it's really thrilling because we do so many things well, but we still care about reaching more and more students for their growth and achievement. And it's just incredibly simple but profound what we can do when we start to dive into this. So thank you for sharing it with us, and I just wanted to share it with all of you as well. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, Superintendent Haberer.
Can you pull up my thing, please? I just want to say a shout out to Susan Fields, Dr. Fields, for coming and saying, what's that? Oh, we just talked about that. It's because they said it before. Now that's stuck in my brain. I'm sorry, Dr. Field. No, really, truly, thank you for coming to me and saying, hey, we're going to do Schmoker Results Now 2.0. And I've been a long time fan of Schmoker and his results now. He's been around for a while and he's looked at all the different trends in education. And when Susan came to me with that, I thought, wow, what an opportunity to have a district-wide professional learning community around this. And so we talked, it's like, well, what if I just give the book to the board and then they could read it and we could have conversations. And then Dr. Field and I were talking more, and we're going to have a kind of a hybrid model for teachers, principals, our board members to get online and meet in person and do a discussion and kind of a district-wide professional learning community around Dr. Schmoker's work. And Dr. Schmoker's coming here in June. And so certainly as we discuss this book throughout, and I thought we could take sections of it and talk about it during some of our study sessions, and then we can all see him in person. And I know I'm super excited to meet him in person. So thank you, Dr. Field, for setting all that up for us. It's truly going to be a great opportunity. And then building on those principles that you mentioned, Director Cons, concerning, what are those main things that we need to focus on, and how do we follow through then with what we read this year and talk about so that we can continue to just positively impact our students. All right, so my update's obviously short since we just had a break, but just have a few things I want to highlight. Got invited to go to Encompass Heights Elementary School to do some reading, and I had a chance to read to fourth graders, and it was really fun. It was great to be with students, and it definitely fills my bucket every time I'm with students. And you can see other people from our community, and really a shout out to Encompass Heights for putting on this program and allowing community members and inviting me to come and read to their students. And then a congratulations to Twyla, who's a 5th grade student from Encompass Heights Elementary School. She will have her design featured on the Pikes Peak Region 2024 Battle of the Books shirts. She submitted her artwork to be considered as t-shirt design and won. There's 1,000 shirts will be worn by Battle of the Books participants who will compete in April at Colorado College. So a huge congratulations to Twyla. And then we highlighted this before, but what a great opportunity to celebrate our district and our programming, and especially our students. Liberty High School's construction program has officially gone viral. Over the winter break, People magazine featured the school's recent home completion and interviewed our former student, Victoria Turner, whose family purchased the home for her after she put in time during one of our programs here to build it. And the story really shows the communities across our country that our D20 programs and students are truly shaping the future. And then I know Courtney from our communications team's like, oh, we just have to put this in here because the dogs were so amazing. So on Wednesday morning, Pine Creek High School welcomed Colorado Springs Police and 3 K-9 officers for training. The school served as a new training ground for the dogs named Pongo, Donut, and Miles. And allowing the dogs to train in Pine Creek exposes them to new smells and environments, which keeps their sniffing skills in tip-top shape. There is another training in the coming months, and they'd like to invite the board and I to participate and observe. So look forward to meeting Pongo, Donut, and Miles in the future. And as soon as we have the details, we'll certainly let you know. And a true thank you to our wonderful Colorado Springs Police Department. We just really appreciate them and our partnership with them. And then we have 2 D20 athletes that were recently named as peak performers by the Colorado Springs Gazette for their outstanding seasons in their respective sports. Carolyn Smith, a Liberty High School senior, has made headlines for her standout performance in field hockey. And meanwhile, Air Academy High School senior Tessa Walter is recognized for her cross-country season. Not only was her team the best in the nation, but she is known for being a leader among her peers. And again, congratulations to these wonderful students. And then you can see Dr. Pariseau and Dr. Smith performing CPR on Resuscitation Annie there in our Pikes Peak State College visit that we did to the Health Sciences Center, and it was wonderful. We had a representative from UC Health who was also with us, and we just had a great conversation with Lance, who's the director of, or who's the president of Pikes Peak Community College, and really had a great conversation on how can we partner with them more effectively, how can we increase our students' access to this absolutely amazing health sciences center, something I haven't seen before. They actually do several real life scenarios, and they have like a house where if somebody at their house had a heart attack and the students were EMTs and they came in, how would they respond to that experience? And it was truly amazing. I had no doubt that any student that would go through this program would be well equipped to deal with multiple types of emergencies, because it's not just learning the skills in the textbook. It's just going through all of these different scenarios as part of their training, and then they get feedback on how they did so that they can improve. So I was really impressed with their program. And then certainly our holiday party. We had a great time together, and just to celebrate and have fun and do that team building, which is part of, we do value our relationships with our staff here in D20, and we just had a really great time. And you can see Dr. Smith looks very different now than he did on that day, but just saying. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you. All right, we need a motion to approve the following resolutions. Resolution 01-24, approval of matters relating to administrative staff licensed. Resolution 02-24, approval of matters relating to administrative staff classified. Resolution 03-24, approval of matters relating to licensed staff teachers. Resolution 04-24, approval of matters relating to licensed staff licensed support / special services provider. Resolution 05-24, approval of matters relating to classified staff. Resolution 06-24, approval of monitoring report for ENDS 1.1, knowledge and skills monitoring report. Resolution 07-24, approval of monitoring report evaluation for ENDS policy 1.1, knowledge and skills. Resolution 08-24, approval of monitoring report for executive limitations, policy EL 2.4, financial condition and activities. Resolution 09-24, approval of monitoring report evaluation for executive limitations, policy 2.4, financial conditions and activities. Resolution 10-24, approval of 24-25 new course proposals from Air Academy High School and Village High School. Resolution 11-24, approval of the annual designation of Education and Administration Center as place for posting notice to public. Approval of Board of Education work session meeting minutes from December 14th, 2023. Approval of Board of Education regular meeting minutes from December 14th, 2023. Approval of Board of Education special meeting minutes from December 18th, 2023. And approval of Board of Education special meeting minutes from December 19th, 2023.
Moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Cons,
Aye.
Mrs. Shandy,
Aye.
Mr. Wilburn,
Aye.
Mrs. Yanez,
Aye.
Mr. Salt.
Aye. All right, we've got 16 attendees online. All right, there are no items pulled from consent agenda. So next up is information items. A, tracking of graduates, Superintendent Haberer.
Yes, and I would ask Dr. Jim Smith, Assistant Superintendent for Planning and Engagement, to give this report.
Test one. All right, great. Yeah, before I get started, I want to say thanks to Dr. Field, who provided those hair extensions that led to that beautiful picture of me. And thank you, Superintendent Haberer, for sharing that with everybody. That's great. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to share this year's Tracking Graduates Report. This data collection report is in response to a superintendent initiative during the 2013 and 2014 school year to track the trajectory of our students once they leave District 20 schools. We've done this in partnership with the National Student Clearinghouse for many years now, and want to share a couple of caveats before we get into the data. The first is that nationally, 3% of colleges and universities abstain from reporting their enrollment data for the clearinghouse. A relatively small amount, but I want to make sure to note that. Also, this data does not include students who join the military or who attend military academies, as the military does not provide data to outside agencies, nor does the data include trade schools that are not identified as community colleges. I would love to have the military data someday, so if there's anybody that has any pull on that way, I'd love it. All right. When we look at the percentage of students who enrolled in college immediately after high school, which is an enrollment window of August 15th to October 31st, We had 65% of our total 1,869 seniors attend either a 2-year school or a 4-year school in 2022. This class was our largest class since the data collection began in 2014. As you can see, 65% is below the 8-year average of 68%, but is the first increase in several consecutive years. Just a note of reference, the 8-year average in 2016 was 73%. When comparing our performance to national averages shared by the National Student Clearinghouse, our percentages fare pretty well against the reported 56% urban districts, 62% suburban districts, and 56% rural districts. When analyzing public schools versus private schools, we see less vulnerability over the years among private institutions. This graph shows a breakdown of 4-year versus 2-year schools. Interestingly, as we reported in years past, 2-year schools continue to remain consistent, relatively unchanged year after year.
Dr. Smith, I think you went backwards on the slide deck.
Did I? Oh,
Next one. Thank you.
thank you. It's the green button, not the red one. I think cost and access are probably two indicators of why the 2-year schools fare so well. When we look at in-state versus out-of-state enrollments, only in-state institutions are showing a relatively consistent decrease, with our out-of-states remaining steady around 23%. All right, so this is a different kind of set of data. This is persistence data. Persistence data describes the percentage of students who stayed in college from their freshman year to their sophomore year. This graph shows that of 100% of the students who attended college, 86% of the students persisted to their second year. In my opinion, it shows that our students, once they get there, they do quite well. The persistence percentage nationally fares as follows: urban, 81%, suburban, 85%, rural, 80%. So at 86%, we're just above the national average and doing quite well for suburban schools. Interestingly, among these students, the gap between public and private schools remained fairly consistent when compared to previous years. Same slide, okay. Persistence is consistently highest among students enrolled in a 4-year institution, with 2-year schools showing a slight 5% increase from 2020 to 2021. In-state versus out-of-state. While the overall percentage of students persisting remained mostly unchanged for both groups, the gap remained at 6 percentage points between the two groups. All right, now we get to the colorful slides. These are exciting in my opinion. So to look at the 6-year completion rates, we have to go back in time for these 3 classes, 2015, 2016, and 2017. District 20 averages around 52% of students enrolled in college graduate within 6 years, which is very consistent year after year. As you can see, the 4-year option is still most common, with 5 years being second most common. I'm hoping that my kids go for the 4-year option. Okay. This data does include both 2-year and 4-year programs. If a student completes an associate's degree in 2 years or less, they are included in the completion data at that time, even if they go on to get a BA or a BS. Students who earn college credits in high school can certainly decrease their time and investment in college, and something that we're committed to in District 20. All right, even more colorful. To orient ourselves, the purple band, the top band, represents students not captured in the data set by the National Student Clearinghouse. This band could include graduates not attending any institution, like not going to school anywhere, attending an institution that doesn't report the data, the 3% that we talked about, or military academies. You'll also recognize that the green new to college changed to 3.8% from 74.6%. This is expected, as most students in the green band either persist or they leave college. The yellow band represents no longer enrolled and not graduated. This number does increase over time from 8.5% in 2015 to 21.4% in 2021. This is an area that I think does illuminate possible questions for us to ponder, like why are so many students choosing to drop out of college once they've started? Is there something we could be doing better to help prepare our students or guide them better? Do we have enough programs for students who really don't want to attend college? The orange band or the persistent band decreases over time as students either graduate, the magenta band, that's the bottom one, I call it magenta, or they leave college, the yellow band. The magenta band represents students who have graduated, as I said, and then for the class of 2014, 57.2% of those students, or 897 students, graduated by the end of the 2021-22 school year. So this is the class of 2015. If you looked at the two slides next to each other, you'd see some great consistency. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on each of these because they are very consistent year after year after year. This is the class of 2016, very similar to the previous one. Also 2017, a 6-year group in there. The class of 2018, it will take a minute to look at. It's much like the other classes previous to them. However, at the 5-year mark, this class, the class of 2018, is noticeably below the previous classes with respect to the percentage of students who've graduated. Not sure exactly why that would be. We get closer to the current year, the data does look a little less interesting. At 2020, at this point, I want to highlight the purple band, or the percentage of students not accounted for in the National Student Clearinghouse. If you were to watch them closely with each slide, you'd notice that the purple band is getting bigger and bigger every year. And why is that? So fewer students are choosing to go to college right after high school. And the class of 2021, with an enrollment of 1854, is a relatively large class in the data set and has the largest percentage of unaccounted for students, or the purple band, of all other groups. Missing one. The class of 2022 that isn't here for some reason has an enrollment of 1865, which is the largest class in the data set, showing that we're seeing growth over time in our district. And when compared to the class of 2014, the class of 2022 has nearly 7% more students not attending college after high school at 31.8%. Now, the last slide is what people get kind of excited about. I'd usually say drum roll, but I won't. These are the top 25 schools that our students attend from District 20. Unfortunately, I just want to take a moment. Kansas, the Ivy League school of the Midwest, has dropped off the top 25. But of particular note, the Colorado Christian University made the top 25 for the first time, and the top 8 schools are completely unchanged from the last year. I'm also proud to announce that Kansas State did not make the top 25 once again. Do you have any questions for me?
Ms. Chandy, did you say you have questions?
Yeah, no, thank you for answering some of my questions already. I appreciate that. Is anyone following the DECE students to see how they're actually doing once they get in college?
So our data set doesn't allow us to drill down to that level. I do wonder if we could get the raw data from the clearinghouse and then kind of tie that to IC. We don't have a mechanism for that yet, but it would be very interesting to do.
Yeah, I think it'd be valuable to make sure that our programs are serving our students in the next step, you know, after the investment in their high school step.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I think, yeah, I think you answered all the other questions, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Next is the item B, College and Career Services Update, Superintendent Haber.
Yes, and Dr. Jim Smith, Assistant Superintendent for Planning and Engagement.
Yes, welcome, Dr. Parasol.
That was a great welcome. Thank you, Dr. Smith, for that information, because it bleeds really well, flows really well into, not bleeds, that's a negative thing, but flows really well into what I'm going to be talking about today regarding college career services at Academy District 20. It's a great opportunity to be able to talk about a lot of these really neat things that we're really working toward in our district. But I do want to start with a Jim joke. And so since he just talked about college, why didn't the son go to college? Because he already has 1 million degrees. Yeah, that's the same response you get when you tell them, by the way. Kind of one of the, this is my third year here in this position, and kind of one of the responsibilities given to me is really gears around the word relevancy, and how can we make what we do, particularly at our high school level, or by the time they get to high school, more relevant. And this is something that, as in my position over College Career Services, we're out and about and communicate with industry quite a bit, and we know what they complain about. And we know that there's a definite mismatch between what we're doing in public education as a whole, in the sense of effectively preparing students for workforce and for opportunities. And in a typical academic program where students take academic courses maybe in a vacuum, they take their math and then they take their science. That alone doesn't bridge the gap in the sense of what's available to them or how to navigate post-secondary life, whether it's industry-based or through college. And we want to make sure we do everything we can to provide those opportunities for our students. And we want to address that hole that we saw in the data that Dr. Smith presented, in the sense of making it more purposeful and to where they're going into adulthood with their eyes wide open and prepared. They know what's available to them, they have goals and aspirations, and they know how to meet those goals. And those are things that we want to address. Also, a part of that, industry has definitely said that academic knowledge is very important, and it always will be, but it's not everything, and they also need to have experience. And there's a lot of students that do well academically, but yet socially and work ethic wise, they struggle. And a lot of them don't have those experiences. And we know through research, particularly at the college level right now, internships at the college level is like the thing. It's like the gold standard. If you're able to, whatever field you're in, be able to get those connections, those students have a huge advantage over others. And that also resonates true in the K-12 world, where if we give students more experiences with industry, it's going to benefit them tremendously. And the more we get industry in our classrooms, the more we get our students out in industry, it's going to benefit them. So what I want to talk about are actions that we're taking regarding college and career readiness in particular. And and my presentation, because I could really do a lecture for hours in the sense of the nuances of everything that we do in College Career Services, I wanted to talk more about what we're headed toward and what are some of the goals that we're working on. In particular, we're working on updating our ICAP structure. ICAP is Individual Career and Academic Plan, and I know one of the questions was that I asked my student or something, what was ICAP, or had they done the process? And it's not in the vernacular of our high school kids. The school sites don't call it ICAP or ICAPing, but there are activities being done at our high schools that are part of this ICAP process. But we want to reinvent that, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And basically try to make a K-12 college and career readiness continuum as we look in the future. Also, there's been a lot of research, particularly in the state of Colorado, has interconnected with national think tanks regarding blurring the lines between K-12 and post-secondary. And those are things that within new policy and laws that the state of Colorado has definitely fostered. And those are things that we definitely want to look at. And so in particularly, supporting and expanding college credit opportunities for high school students, ensuring high quality and relevant career technical education, programming, and career academies, which I'll talk about more specifically what career academies are, and also integrating industry partnerships, advisories, and work-based learning experiences along the continuum. So first, let's talk about ICAP. So ICAP is basically something that's required by law in the state of Colorado. We expand it for high school students, but we expand it also to middle school. And it's something that through the work of Portrait of a Graduate that we're doing right now, it will definitely integrate into as we reimagine what our ICAP system and program can be. That's going to help lead and guide it as we really hone in and develop what our portrait is. Like, what do we want students who graduate to be able to know and do? What skill sets and traits do we want them to have? And that's going to help lead and guide us in this ICAP process. So in essence, ICAP is a way to create, for an individual to create a plan on what they're going to do in the future, in a nutshell, right? And so on the left side here, you see these are things that are required for us to do in this ICAP process. And on the right-hand side are things that we want to do that as we reimagine our ICAPing structure, these are things that we want to add. And we're in the process of negotiating, changing our ICAP platform. We've been using Naviance for quite a few years. When we first started with them, they were the only game in town, and now they're the old game in town and not the most relevant. And so we're looking toward moving past that, in particular, looking for ones that have a pre-K through 5th grade college awareness and exploration curriculum that can be utilized by our elementary schools. Also, that have an integrated work-based learning platform is, I think, a really important part that we could keep track and be able to negotiate that a lot better. Also, there's some more technical aspects of things like online test prep for ACT and SAT, personalized college match tools, graduation planners, course planners, graduation progress trackers, things of that sort. It's there. I'm not going to read to you all, but those are things that we want to implement into our ICAP process for our secondary programs. The next thing is regarding concurrent and dual enrollment in college programming. And this is something that I see quite a bit, where the old conventional wisdom is that if you want your son or daughter to go to college, there's really only one way, and that is taking AP or IP courses or college prep type high school level courses. And that used to be true a long time ago. Back when I was in high school, in a small high school, there was no AP classes. This is like the only way. And is to take college prep classes, and there wasn't even AP. There was very little, if anything, at least maybe that I knew of. Who knows? Maybe it was just me. But the new realities are there's numerous ways and opportunities for kids, more so now than ever before. And there's not just one way to get into a program of their choice or to fulfill their goals. And dual enrollment, concurrent enrollment, I'll explain the difference in those in a minute. In addition to AP and IB, those are still just as valid, but there's multiple ways of doing it. So in particular, what created this change in Colorado and for Academy District 20 is a law that was passed that went into effect back in 2020-21. And you notice that's like right as COVID hit, and then COVID hit, right? And so it was a weird transition. And then I came in to this position right at the tail end of COVID. And so our district was still trying to get its wiggles out, trying to figure out how to do it, how to create procedures around concurrent enrollment. And in essence, this is what the law states, that we as a district must offer at no tuition cost to qualified students concurrent enrollment opportunities. And so concurrent enrollment has a specific legal definition in the state of Colorado, where if you go anywhere else in the country, if you say concurrent enrollment, it just means I'm taking high school classes at the same time I'm taking some college classes. Or dual enrollment means that I'm taking a class that counts for both, right? That's the traditional definition. In Colorado, concurrent enrollment means that it's a college program that charges at the community college rate, and that the district would be responsible to pay for the tuition for students taking those courses, and that we are to advertise it, we are to support it, and we're to foster that. And so anything outside the scope of that would be defined as dual enrollment. So that's how kind of Colorado defines it. And so this is something that we've created systems. Every year we have more and more and more students that are interested in it as we advertise it and get the word out post-COVID. And so we've been trying to create better systems, because my staff is very small and we have thousands of kids apply, right? So we have to comb all through all that. And then here are our criteria we have at the district currently for students who qualify to take concurrent enrollment classes. It's grade-based, so they can have no grades lower than a C from the previous and current semesters in high school. They have no grades lower than a B in the particular course area they're interested in taking. So if they want to take a college English class, they have to get at least a B in their high school level English class. They need to be on track to graduate. There's no concurrent enrollment for remedial type coursework, and so they have to be on track. And then they also need to have an up-to-date ICAP plan. So they have to have an ICAP plan, and it has to be on their application, or else we don't approve them. And so counselors usually work with their students in ensuring they have that 4-year plan, that whatever courses they're taking aligns to that plan. Some new cool things that has happened recently within concurrent enrollment options. Like I said, concurrent enrollment is charging tuition at the community college rate that the district covers. And so the 4-year universities usually were hands off. But recently they've had a change of heart, and we've been able to negotiate with UCCS and MSU Denver to create concurrent enrollment contracts So starting next year, students can do concurrent enrollment through those 2 institutions. MSU Denver will be used primarily for online type academic courses, and UCCS will be another option for students to take courses on their campus, which is nice because it's closer than the Centennial campus that's way down south. I know I don't like my son driving on the freeway, especially in the winter down there. So those are cool things that are become available to students starting next year. Just some other aspects of concurrent enrollment. Our students are very successful that take college courses. Over 90% of our students who do concurrent enrollment do very well academically in them. Last year, we had 336 students earn 3,866 transferable college credits. We also had 28 students earn associate's degrees before their high school diplomas, district-wide. Here, and I'm not going to get into this, but if you have a question about any of this, you could ask or you could email me after. These are all the different types of concurrent and dual enrollment programs that are currently being offered in our district. Some of them provide tuition assistance after they would normally graduate, so they can get college for free for a year or two, depending on the program. And that's called Ascent. It's the first one up there. And then there's also one to recruit teachers called TREP that pays for 2 years. And so with this concurrent enrollment deal with UCCS in particular, a student can be our high school student, then go to UCCS, get 2 years of college paid for through that program and be well on their way to becoming a teacher. So there's some really cool things out there, and I could talk more about them if you have a question about them. But you can see with regarding dual enrollment, the data there, we had 684 students in dual enrollment programs last year. And we do offer some dual enrollment that we do pay for because it's cheaper for us as a district to buy a course that's dual enrollment sometimes than it is to pay individual tuition. So sometimes there is an exception to that. We do have Rampart Early College Academy. And so this is addressing a problem in a lot of early college structures where you have to unenroll in your traditional high school that all your friends are at, and that's where you are as a cheerleader or football player or on their band, and you have to enroll in another school to do early college. And so what we established, this Rampart originally reached out to us, and so we worked through how we can make it be effective. And so students are able to be normal Rampart High School students, but they're able to take UCCS college classes on campus. The first freshman year, they take like an introduction to college class. It's like a 1-credit class. And then they interconnected it with Avid. So that way there's support structures in place to ensure that students are doing well. And so we're in the second year of that program, and it's very successful, and hopefully you could draw more students to Rampart. Now I'm going on to CTE, Career Technical Education. And I was thinking about a lot of misnomers I hear people say about career technical education. They always say, oh, that's vocational ed. Those are for kids that can't do anything academic. Then they go off to the shop and do stuff. And that's not what it is. That might have been what it was in our grandfather's day, or grandmother's day, or our father and mother's days. And that's why I have some pictures of some things that are definitely outdated. I showed the picture of the rotary phone to my son, one of my kids, and he was confused on how you make a phone call with that. He thought it was pretty technically difficult. But then you see like the Apple IIe, you see that poor old lady throwing out her potty pot, I guess, whatever it's called. Things have changed over time, and so has career technical education. Career technical education has pathways basically for every possible industry sector. It's not just shop. It's not just kids that can't do. If you want to be a doctor, if you want to be a lawyer, if you want to be an engineer, if you want to be anything, there's potentially a pathway that can be created regarding that industry cluster. And we all know that every industry sector has different entry points. It's not just, if I want to be like in the medical field, there's just doctors. No, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of positions within the medical field or related to that field that are very great careers and are very helpful. And so CTE is not that. It adds value on top of college prep curriculum. It doesn't supplant it. It doesn't replace it. And so students can prepare for college and for career by taking part in these programs. Also, I have a picture that kind of shows the difference. Back in the old days, in the old vocational ed model, there might have been kids making bird cages, right? And now they're building houses. It's different. It's more relevant, and that's something that we want our CTE programs to do. High quality CTE programs have a sequence course structure. They also have a leadership component. That's where CTSOs come in play, which is a Career Technical Student Organization. I know there's some questions. A lot of times people refer to business classes as FBLA classes or DECA classes. They're not. They're business classes that have DECA or FBLA as a CTSO. That's the leadership component of that course. So there's actually curriculum that teachers are teaching, and then the leadership and extracurricular aspect of those pathways is what the CTSOs are for. Work-based learning is also integrated or embedded throughout, and then industry certifications and college credit opportunities for high quality pathways is something that we seek as the gold standard for our programs. So here is just a list of our exploratory programs that we have in our middle schools. And so you notice that these are kind of more general or more kind of broad, and they're just to explore the different industry sectors. And as we get into our high school programs, they get more specific. And so here's the different CT pathways that we currently have. You'll notice the ones in bold are open district-wide, even though some of them are located at Liberty. Students throughout our district can access them. Also, we're working, which is super cool, on an aviation program at Air Academy High School. We're in conversation with an outfit, Falcon Aero Lab, in the sense of partnering with them, and we're kind of spearheading as a public school district in partnering with them to provide opportunities that lead toward ground certification, drone cert, and also potential private pilot's license for students, which would be amazing. And then we're also working on developing a culinary program at Aspen Valley that can come to our district office and utilize the kitchen downstairs, and also work in conjunction with Sodexo, which would be beneficial to those students and to our district. So here's just some rough data in the sense of last year, how many students were enrolled in CTE courses. Middle schools, about 2,600. High schools, about 3,700. Last year, we had 363 students earn industry certifications, 24 serve internships or apprenticeships, sorry. And then we had over 353 work-based learning experiences, which are along the line of clinical experiences or internships or student-led enterprises and things of that sort. So let's go on to the Career Academy model. And this is something that I've talked about, and I know some of you have been in some of the opportunities we had to talk about. I know Superintendent Haber talks quite a bit about this. This is something that I have a lot of experience in my past employment, and this is something that we'll talk about next as we went to Dallas, Texas, and Research and Design, and we looked at a lot of different models of this. But the primary function of a Career Academy is to really connect and answer the question on what do we do with these students who by the time they're their senior year, they're just taking TA periods and hardly even going to school, right? And colleges see that, particularly competitive colleges. They see that, and that could be something that doesn't look good to them because they're not taking advantage of opportunities. We wanted to interconnect that and give students something that brings relevancy to their 4 years in high school. One is that career academies have this notion of a small learning community. And so they're able to be cohorted as they go through a 4-year CTE progression around a career cluster, and then we interlink academic courses in with that. So for example, if you're in a health science academy, you probably have some of your biology classes or even elective science courses that are interconnected. So as students are learning the academic content that will get them qualified for college, it's also interconnecting with the CTE pathway. And then you're infusing in work-based learning. So as they go through that continuum of work-based learning, through industry tours or guest speakers, job shadows, and eventually internships, they're having a real, honest, relevant experience in the sense of what's available to them in that industry. They have things that they could put on their resume. They have things that give them a competitive edge when they're going against students that might have similar academic work, but have no real world experience on it. And it helps them communicate with adults, all those skill sets that we've been talking about through Portrait of a Graduate. Some other notions of it, like I said, is linked. Work-based learning industry partnerships is a huge part of it. There's also solid research evidence on it. I could provide that to you if you're interested in it, but those are just some of the things there. This is something too that's very interesting, is that we're losing a lot of our males to post-secondary opportunities. They're just not going. And you look at the national trends, women dominate bachelor's degrees in most fields. The only field that is the exception is like physics and engineering, most all the other ones. And so where are the boys going? CTE really provides something that helps bring purpose to education and brings purpose to the academic work they're doing. So here are our projected academies that we're working on. When we pitched this idea to the high school principals, before I even had a chance to get my starter pistol out, the Olson and Air Academy High School was already around the bend on the track. I mean, they're already halfway there. And so you could see that they have two that they're starting this fall or this coming fall. They're doing a digital media and theater technology type pathway and a business entrepreneurship. And then Discovery Canyon is going to work on an engineering and a biomedical sciences. Liberty is going to combine some of their programs and create an architecture, engineering, and construction academy. Pine Creek's looking at cybersecurity, computer programming, and Rampart's looking at digital media broadcasting and journalism. So you notice some of these things are already some of their school strengths, and we're kind of giving it an injection, right? And we're giving it more of a purpose, and hopefully that could really create purpose for our high school students as they take a part in these programs. And we'll have more information coming forth as we develop these and continue to work toward it. Work-based learning is a huge thing. We started advisories this year where we had our own regional advisories. This is a picture of our multimedia advisory. We also have some regional advisories that we take part of, automotive and building construction trades with HBA and El Paso County Constructors Association. And this is going really well this year. We have our next one in February. And here's a bunch of industry people that we partnered with in the last few years. These serve on advisories. They serve as work-based learning locations for our students, and we're doing some great stuff with them. And yeah, even District 20 is on there because we've done some work-based learning within our own district. So when it comes to work-based learning, like I said, it's across a continuum. The thing we really target is what's in the box. We really want to eventually get to where students can do internships, pre-apprenticeships, entrepreneurship experiences, clinical experiences, and things of that sort. We are having a college fair. This is something we do to broadcast out everything available to our parents and students. We also create an annual program guide, and we'll have that out probably by next week, where we send that digitally to all middle school and high school parents, which gives all the rules and how you do things when it comes to concurrent enrollment, CTE, all that. We also are creating new events that have never been done in District 20. One is Leaders of Tomorrow, where we bring industry people by cluster. We feed them lunch. We bring in students that are interested in that industry cluster, and we have them ask each other questions and work with each other. It's a really good event. We're also going to start creating next year. We're going to create an event called Ignite Your Curiosity. It's geared toward middle school students, where we're going to bring people in from all sorts of different industry sectors and give them an opportunity to have panels where they ask questions and do different things like that, so they could expand their knowledge of what's available to them out there in the world and how you navigate it. We also have college and career, like the recruitment night, like I talked about, college fairs, and we are looking at recognizing industry partners, CT teachers, and students in CT programs. These are all new things that our district hasn't done, and these are things that we're planning to do this year and next as we move in the future. So you're all invited to our Parent and Student College Career Services Information Night. It's January 25th, and we're doing it at Chinook Trail Middle School because they got the biggest gym in the world. And so we're going to do it there. And in closing, I just want to share a quick experience. So I know you guys were at the conference, and so you weren't able to go to our kind of ceremony we had for the home build at Liberty. It was super cool because I got there a little bit early, and we had a bunch of students that were in that program. And so I just went around asking all the students, like, so what's your plans? What grade are you in? What's your plans? And it was really interesting to see that most all of them was industry related within construction, but they had very specific goals and very specific plans, and they knew how they were going to get there. And that was something I was very appreciative of. Then after that ceremony was over, I walked through the hallway next door to the auto program and talked to RJ Savage, the amazing auto teacher. And he was telling me about several students of his that are off to trade school, becoming master mechanics in the top of their class. Some of them have scholarships where Toyota is paying for it. A couple of them are, one of them is got hired by Porsche. Porsche is paying for their master mechanic. And if you're a Porsche mechanic, you're making more than most of us sitting in here, right? Also another one with McLaren and those other high-end cars. So he's really training those students well. They're getting their industry certs, and they're making a huge impact in their lives, which can lead to even bigger and better things besides just being an auto mechanic, which isn't bad in and of itself, but he really broadens their horizons. And so it's pretty cool stuff. Anyway, that was over 10 minutes. Sorry.
No, it's
Any
great.
questions?
Any questions? Ms. Yanez?
Has there been any consideration to adding a law enforcement option? So I know that Pikes Peak State College has post-certification. And given that there are empty seats in police academies locally and nationally, has there been any talk around that?
Well, there's been conversation about it. There's a lot that goes into creating a pathway. For one, I don't control the FTE or the teacher, and the sites do. And so when it comes to their allocation, they have to determine what their needs are. And so if they're able to expand, then we could look at different CTE possibilities. Those are things that we are looking at. Students do have access if they are interested in law enforcement through Career Start at Pikes Peak State College. They can go and take part of that. We are looking at, as we build their career academies, maybe down the road, create one that's a first responder one, where students can get into law enforcement, fire, or any kind of emergency services. And we know that through Pikes Peak State College, they did create an applied science degree that's geared toward emergency preparation and things of that sort. So there's a wide industry for it, and those are things we could definitely look at. It has to be aligned to regional industry needs. There's certain criteria that the state dictates when it comes to approving a program, but it's definitely one that can exist. And that's something we could definitely look at in the future and how it could best fit and where it fits in our high schools.
I got a couple questions for you.
Sure.
And I was thinking, Dr. Field, I'm sorry, I didn't think of this until I was sitting there listening, but if I remember correctly from last week, our goal for the ICAP programs was 96% in high schools. Is that
95,
95? And we missed it just by one, right?
right. I think we were at 94 point, I don't know, 4. Jeremy, does that sound about right? Yeah.
Percentage.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. So along that line, how are we fostering and cultivating the programs with those kiddos so that we can hit that mark that we have? I mean, how do they know the program exists? How do I get involved? All of
Yeah.
that.
So one of the things when I first came on board, a lot of that information giving was a site-based endeavor. It wasn't through my department. And so we have started creating district events, and then we're also providing support for site-based. And really between the two of them, that's what needs to happen. And so we're looking at increasing those opportunities. That's one reason I think long-term goal of ours is through the ICAP process is to create a K-12 continuum of experiences. So as we're going through elementary schools, instead of doing things like in a silo where they're doing like robotics and it's just we're playing with Legos, we're building a robot, it needs to connect with what's possible down the road so kids understand and it broadens their horizon. And so we want to develop those types of things as we move forward that can help, because the last thing, if you're a junior and you're just finding out about this stuff, it's too late. And that's one thing that I've heard a lot in District 20 in the past, and we're trying to rectify that by having as many type of events as we can and to really provide those things. It's obviously a change in culture, and culture takes time to shift, and particularly a change in culture in the way parents perceive how I navigate K-12, because it's different now than it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago when they were in school. And so sometimes or if they just hear from someone else and it might not be correct information. And so we want to make sure that our counselors and our college career counselors understand the latest and greatest. One thing that we started doing last year is we created a mini conference that we host at Wolf Lodge. We invite all our counselors, all the college career counselors, all our CT teachers. And this year we expanded it to include District 49 and District 38 and some of the smaller districts to help participate. And we bring in state officials, and we make it like a mini conference where they're able to learn the latest and greatest in the sense of how you navigate the new college systems, what's changed, how you navigate different programs. For example, one thing that we're looking at is a career planner portion that we have available in our student information system, Infinite Campus, and that's something that's being underutilized in our district. So we're providing a training during that time where students or where counselors can learn how to use that planner, because what that planner does is it helps the counselors and helps the school sites look and see who's on track to graduate, who's not. They could intervene faster, and also the students understand what they're missing, because there's not just one track anymore. It's not like, every kid takes this class at this time, and then next year you take this class. It's more flexible than it's ever been. And so sometimes kids get lost in it, parents get lost in it. What do I need to do? And that way that's going to help. So we utilize those things. We're really expanding it and doing a lot with that. So I hope that answers.
Yeah, and then I love that first of all, because it does give new meaning to high school or in school. It's not just checking boxes, it's making it meaningful for life.
Yeah.
But along that same line are how do the transparency to the parents, and how do they know that their child is or is not engaged in ICAP stuff? How do they track what they're doing? Because I've talked to several parents who are like, I have no idea
Mhm.
what ICAP is, or that if I've had several kids go through the District 20. So what are we doing to be transparent with that program, and how our kids are progressing through it, and how do parents become involved with that?
Well, it's our, my department is very small, and so a lot of that is site-based. And so we've been working with the counseling teams to be more proactive in the sense of what they do. That's one thing that in fact, just in December, we had like a little retreat within my department to articulate in the sense of what do we want every high school to do, right? And then like at the bare minimum, because some of our school sites do a very good job, and they actually do really well, and some of them struggle with it, right? So at the bare minimum, what's the basic that we want all our students and parents to have access to? And that's one thing we notice even with concurrent enrollment. It's an accessibility thing. Like, do they even know about it? And that's one thing that I've learned, and that we're really trying to rectify that through the different, going back on that list, the different activities and events. We've been jumping on the back of parent nights and doing several events, intertwining with that. But our big one we do before they start registering for classes is the one on the 25th of this month that we're hosting at Chinook Trail. And what we're doing in that is we're going to do a presentation presenting all this information. Then we're going to release them to the gym, where we're going to have like a kind of a career fair set up. We'll have all the colleges that we do concurrent enrollment with there. We'll have all the CTE teachers that do different programs throughout our district there. And so that way parents can ask specific questions, so it's not just general and then they don't know who to talk to. So we'll have booths there. We'll all be there to be able to answer questions too.
That parents could track that on,
Yeah.
I'm not a coder, but it would be cool to add that.
Dr. Parasos, can remind us again where we're at with the adoption of a new ICAP technology? We're replacing
Yeah, so
Naviance. So
yeah,
where are we at with that?
we're under contract with Naviance through
Mhm.
next year. They've kind of fallen through with some of the features that they promised, so we're able to get a reduction. We're trying to get rid of the contract, but it's been a negotiation. It's been kind of tough. But the new platform has given us a reduction in first year, and then we have a current grant that is used for concurrent enrollment or college preparation. So we're trying to utilize the leftover resources for that transition. It's a complicated thing, but basically the plan is to implement it in the fall of next year with the new platform, and we'll provide training to all the counselors and school sites. It'd be late spring into summer for the fall. That's the plan. If everything goes well with the grant, we're in the process of talking with the state so we could switch what our priorities were on the expenditure of that.
And Director Shandy, I really appreciate the questions you're asking, because you're spot on. And I think as we move to a new ICAP product and we start training people on it, I think we also are looking at ways to even more intentionally bring together our high school and middle school counselors to be aware of the ICAP, and also even looking at potentially having our parent academies and having some real specific outreaches just about the ICAP and how parents can support that process. And eventually, I mean, it's really a systemic awareness, I believe, on the part of teachers, counselors, parents, on the importance of helping students to know their strengths and explore potential opportunities for careers when they graduate. And so we're really starting at the high school level, like Dr. Parasos said, with our academies. And as we're putting all that in place, we certainly recognize, which you're asking about, which I appreciate, the importance to be really intentional, with counselors and the whole system around just how important that individual career and academic plan is, and really making sure that our parents are in tight partnership with us. So we've got some work to do in that area, but I appreciate your asking those questions, because we are currently in the process of looking at, especially for next year, but even to the spring, how can we ensure that all parents and students are aware of the importance of that, and aware of all these amazing concurrent enrollment opportunities that we offer in D20.
Yeah. And then I'd say just the last question I have for you, just on that same note, going forward and growth and all of that, do we have metrics? How are we evaluating our tracks and the tracks that are being really productive, like the auto track sounds amazing. How do we know if a track is working well? I mean, do we have our metrics yet on what's working well, what needs to be pruned, and what do we need to plant?
Yeah, we're early in on that. That's something that we're moving toward. When I came in a few years ago, and of course it's coming right out of COVID, which was tricky for career technical education in general, right? But that's something where we've been working on changing the culture of our high school sites, because some of them would consider CTE as just an elective.
Right.
And so kids are bouncing in and out. And it's really about a sequence where you start broad and you narrow in technical knowledge as you go through. And some of our programs at the smallest can be 2 years, like the auto program is a 2-year program, or our CNA and EMT is 2 years. EMT is 1, you have to be a senior to get into that. And so some of them are shorter in duration, but we're working on changing that culture, and then we could work on towards evaluating, and we're trying to, the state, just to kind of, there's a lot to it, but really the point of, to get state money for CT programs, they have to be considered high quality, and there's certain indicators that they have to meet or work toward. So Perkins is a federal funding structure that then's fed through the states, and then the CTA is a reimbursement that also supports CTE programming. And so there's a lot of strings attached, and that's what we spend a lot of time doing, is navigating that bureaucracy and working with the sites to increase the high quality aspect of their pathways and programs. And a lot of our programs are moving along, and are becoming better as teachers start to learn the importance of integrating in all these different aspects to ensure high quality status. And then once we get there, we could look at what, maybe we don't need to do that. Maybe it's not as useful as we thought. But to even be an approved program, it has to be connected with regional needs. So we're not going to create like a telephone operator pathway, right? We're going to do things that lead to good wage and good job opportunities for students. And those are the programs we're going to foster. And we also have to do programs where students want to do it. Like I come from a big ag area where each high school had 5 ag pathways, right? And we have 0 in our district, and I would love to have an ag pathway, but we're not necessarily in a region that's geared toward that as much as some other places in the state. And so that would be a harder sell to get kids involved. I'm sure we can get it, but just different things like that. So it has to interconnect with what we have available through industry partnerships, and how we could bridge that connection. But we're open to anything. And a lot of our principals I know they're craving for relevant elective options. And then we run into some issues in the sense of making sure we can get CT credentialed teachers in those areas, and how we could support it. And that's what my job is, right? To deal with the nuance of all that. But those are all things we're definitely looking at creating as we move forward.
Thank you.
Mr. Wilburn?
Director Shandy, your second question was my first. So thank you for asking that. You had mentioned the concurrent enrollment program at Rampart gives the kids the ability to stay on campus, which is ingenious, be around their peers, familiar surroundings, what have you. Once they've taken the initial single credit welcome to college class, who then does the instructing? Is this all virtual at that point?
So some of it is their instructors, but one of the grants that we got was to help pay for teachers to go back and be qualified as instructors. So it'd be our teachers teaching their college class. And so for them to qualify, they have to have X amount of postgraduate credits in their particular content areas. And so we have a grant that helps pay for that. So we've been working on that the last few years. And so it's a blend of either theirs or ours, but the goal is at the end game, as we move forward in the program, is to get as many of our teachers approved as instructors. And for example, back on a few slides, if you looked at some of the dual enrollment offerings through UC Succeed, is what the program's called. Those are all District 20 teachers that are approved to teach those college courses that enable students to get college credit in those academic areas. So we do have teachers that are qualified, and that's kind of the goal with that program there. But some of it is potentially online with the AVID class as the support mechanism to ensure that they're making progress.
So what's our student teacher ratio look like in some of those classrooms?
those programs,
Yeah.
they're pretty, they're in their 20s and in the 20s. That's pretty solid.
Thank you.
Ms. Cons?
Just real briefly, Dr. Perso, on behalf of the students, just thank you and your team for your work and vision on developing even more opportunities. So it is exciting, and thanks for not sticking with the status quo Naviance and knowing that it's news to me that it's the old system on the block now. So
Yeah,
I'm
it is.
super excited that you're,
And one of the biggest limitations of Naviance is it doesn't communicate well with Infinite Campus.
yes.
And so that was one reason it was just a major problem. And
Great.
so we needed to find a solution to move past that. So
So like Mrs. Shandy's question about if we could link it, and just this whole slide about what you're seeking in a more robust system. I think it's going to obviously not only help the students, but help all of our counselors and like our mentors at the village who have to do a lot of manual labor and hands-on work for every student. So I'm thrilled that it's going to just lend itself to more usefulness and all of that. Last thing, I can't emphasize enough hearing you talk about, because you and I have talked many times about getting the word out. We've mentioned it here to middle school parents, especially for high school, if not sooner. We see every email from every school. I'm begging the principals or our communication team or whoever can work together to get the word out there more, because I'm still not seeing it.
Well, and-
Anything from the Chinook Middle School event soon to
we waited till
Yes.
after Christmas
good,
break, but we have a whole plan, which is going to be blasted out.
great.
Allison could probably speak more to specifically, but she's got some great plans. Also, we're working with our graphic artist to create a more pretty
Slide.
pamphlet
Okay.
and materials to get out. And then the program guide will go out to everyone digitally, and then we'll have hard copies available at the school sites.
Which you did last year.
Yeah,
Which was
and
great.
that's
Yeah.
something we're going to continue. But this is our big event. One thing that we might want to look at in the future is creating some consistency in the sense of when students enroll in classes, because our main target is incoming freshmen, right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of scattered. Every high school does a little bit differently, and so it lessens our window because we have this winter break, and then we have students already starting to register like at the end of January. And then if you do stuff too early in the fall, they forget and it's disconnected. And so we have a very small window, but
Right.
this is our big event that we're going to be hitting hard and getting the word out. And we're setting it up to where we're using their cafetorium, but we
Yes.
also have an overflow record set up where it's being broadcast into their lecture hall.
Right.
So that way we could facilitate, 500-600 plus people there. So
And it can and it should be simple, every school's emails, just because I'm a parent and I'm sure a lot of parents don't get past, hopefully they're reading the emails from their school,
yeah,
but there might not be much more diving in. And even our new method of linking to the school's website, which I get because it looks better and you can have that information. I bet there's a whole lot of people that aren't clicking on the links. They just want a bullet point information. So that one slide, again, this is just my opinion on how I view things from the district. That one slide with our middle school and high school programs in bullet points, like if we could just see every middle school or sending that out, I would think that would be effective in addition to everything else you guys are already doing.
definitely.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Director Cons, would you like Allison just to kind of share out briefly what they're doing with that? Go ahead, Allison.
I'm on. Oh, there I am. So I can share that we literally spent probably most of December working in meetings with Jamin's team, which was amazing. And so part of what we built a short-term plan, and then we're going to build a long-term marketing, strategic marketing communication plan. And part of the challenge is some people want the bullet, but some people want to go deep, right? And so we really want to meet people where they are. So our plan focuses around our owned media, which is our social accounts, our website, our 20 alerts, our earned media, which is media relations, getting people at these events, getting them to cover stories like the one that was in People, and then our paid media, which is advertising. So we are developing a sub-brand for all of these programs, but it all starts with the web. So we know that more than 80% 80% of people will get their information from the web, and we have to get the content there correct first. Once we get that there, we can optimize it. So if you are a parent in and around Colorado Springs and you type in careers, students, D11 doesn't show up, D20 shows up, right? Pikes Peak Community College doesn't show up, D20 shows up. So that's where we're spending the bulk of our time right now. But even just today, we're working on 3 different print pieces, because there's a thing called the coffee table effect, that if I can get something in your mailbox on your coffee table, it increases the likelihood that you're actually going to take action and learn about it by a significant percentage. So we've got 4 pieces in the works right now for their department that some would be mailed out, some would be delivered to the schools. So we're working on a comprehensive plan to do exactly what you're hoping to be receiving. Yeah.
And I hope you guys understand. I mean, to not diminish, I know you guys do so much work. I just wanted to offer up my experience just as a parent or someone reading emails. Like you said, some people only want the email, some people can dive deeper. And I just want to capture everyone because the programs are so important.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you really quick. Love the direction that this whole CTE program is going and the intentionality behind it and what we're doing. I love not just hearing about the students and the resurgence of trades and the interest in going there and not having to take on debt to go to college to have a career, but these are practical skills in most cases that people will use at their house. I know I've looked at so many houses when house shopping that were renovated by people who could have benefited from these types of classes. And so I'm really glad that our students are going to have the opportunity to learn these life skills, whether they choose it as a career track or not, that they will be equipped for beyond high school. So I really appreciate the work that you and your team are doing. And like I said, the intentionality behind that. So thank you so much. Next is the choice enrollment update, Superintendent Haber. Oh, nope, research and design team learning, Superintendent Haber.
Yes, Dr. Jim Smith, Assistant Superintendent for Planning and Engagement.
All right, good evening. Thank you, Jamin. That was fantastic. Great job. As you may know, every year we take a group of teacher leaders and administrators on a trip to look at innovative practices across a state or a region, and with the idea of finding practices that we might be able to replicate here in District 20. And so this last year we went to Dallas, and I'm going to welcome the team this way if we could. So we have a team of folks who are going to help with this presentation. But in our 9th year, we've gone to 10 different places. One year we did 2 different trips, but we've been to San Francisco, Boston, Seattle, Washington, DC, Fairfax County, San Diego, New York City, Chicago, Portland, Minneapolis, Denver, and now Dallas. This may be our last year, just as I think we've kind of run the course some on this particular type of work, and we've learned a lot, and we'll talk about some of the applications that we've had across the district over the years, but really just wanted to kind of celebrate the work and the opportunities that we've had over the years, and kind of ending with this particular trip. So who goes on this? This year we had 15 candidates. That's typically about the size that we go with. We had 21 applicants. You might wonder, why do we only have 21 applicants? This is a big district, a lot of staff members. I've seen a couple of things change over time. New York City, we had a huge number of people who wanted to go. So I don't know what it says about Dallas, but the numbers weren't as big as say, New York City. And also the time of year, a commitment of a full week away. Lots of those different factors, I think, play into that. And maybe some of the team will talk some of that as well. We do ask the teams when they apply, they share with us what they want to learn from the trip, what they will do when they come back. Part of this is agreeing to do presentations like this one. So that we do that. We try to balance who goes from the EAC, the elementary, middle school, and high school. So it's not all district level heavy, but it's kind of spread across all the different levels. When we get there, we break up into groups of, groups, 3 different groups each day, and we'll visit 1 to 2 different schools, depending on what they have to offer. Some schools have enough going on that we can spend a whole day there learning about their programs, and some really want to spend just 2 or 3 hours, and we go to 2 different sites. So it's part of my job to reach out and find all these different partners. Dallas Public Schools is a huge public school system. Also looked at Fort Worth, so we had some Fort Worth schools as well. and just reaching out, trying to coordinate with all those different folks to have exciting opportunities for the participants for this particular opportunity. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Liz.
Thank you. Yes, I'm Liz. I'm at Air Academy. Welcome to the KDEP folks who are on the team. One of the things that you should know is that it's a nice mix between admin and teachers who go, and between school-based people and district-based people who go. So you can see who is on there, but the idea is that we go, we learn things that other people are doing. And I mean, I'm fully bought into D20. I'm so biased, it's not even funny about us. But I went there, and in a couple of cases, I was like, ooh, I was so sure I was in varsity, but I'm actually in C Squad on this. So we learn a bunch of things, and then we come back and we apply those. So what that looks like for us is that looks like talking at the classroom level, at the school level, and at the district level about, whoa, I learned these things. What does this mean for each of us in our respective roles? And the teacher that came on my team with me is getting his admin license, but he's one of our social studies teachers. And he even felt like big and important and cool that he was sharing his insights with the other members of the team. So that was neat. You can see the composition here on the slide in front of you, all the different roles that were involved. I'll give you a moment to peruse. And then we went at the end of October, which was, I was hoping Dallas would be brilliantly sunny and lovely, and it rained. And so we would pile into our minivans in the morning, and then either between a half an hour to an hour of drive time would get us to the schools that we were at. We'd spend all day there or half the day there, and then meet up later on with other groups from this team. And at the very end of the day, then we would do a whole group debrief on what did you learn? How might this apply in our various spots? And then we returned on October 27th to Snow. You can see here some of the different places that we went to. I'm not going to read this list to you, but what I will say is just what this meant for me at Air Academy. Like Jamin mentioned, we've been like chomping at the bit about these academies, these career and technical academies at Air Academy for a while. So when we were ready to go live with that, when Superintendent Haber was talking about making this a thing, we're like, yes, pick us. And that's personally the reason I wanted to go. So when we went to these different academies, there were so many things from culture with students, and how they behave and think and believe as a part of an academy, to understanding the value of that. Even if we went to a law academy, and a lot of the kids that we talked to, yeah, they're like, no, I don't want to be a lawyer when I grow up, but this experience is helping me so much for X, Y, and Z that I do want to do. So that was really encouraging. So we were able to take all of the different experiences that we had on our team, and we have implemented, I would say, a good 10 or 15 things from this trip immediately that we'll be rolling out next year. So it was super relevant for us. And the others are going to talk more about their various experiences. But I just want to say thank you to the board. It's been fabulous, except for the rain, which was not great. But the barbecue was amazing.
Great. And as we transition here, just want to highlight that typically we go to schools that are public, private, charter, all kinds of different schools. We're just really looking for the innovation that could be replicated here in District 20. So Susan, you're up next.
Sorry, I have a mint in my mouth. So you can see down the bottom of the slide, our big focus areas were innovation. So any programs, practices, structures, etc., that could be replicated, like we said, in District 20, model PLC schools. So we did get to see, I think, Carrie, are you going to talk about that? Very good. Model professional learning community schools that are actually have been certified model schools. And then CTE programs and pathways, that's something we've been looking at for years. Everywhere we go, every metropolitan area, every city, every type of school, we are looking at innovation in that area.
Me again. This was amazing. It was a great experience. One thing that I personally got out of it was validation in the sense of the direction that we're headed. It was really cool to see. I mean, obviously, you look at bigger districts because Dallas Unified is, I think, 160,000 students. And so resource-wise, there's a lot more there. Structurally, it was really interesting because they had like a whole division at their district office based on each industry cluster of a coordinator that had an expertise in that field. But what they did was really interesting. Back in the 70s, they were under some civil rights issues regarding school segregation and things of that sort. And their answer to address that problem was actually to create innovative school sites. So some of the stuff they've had was actually been around for 20, 30 years. And so they had comprehensive school sites, then they had like magnet sites. Some were CTE related. Just like we talked about the law, there's like a law school, like a law academy. Then they had specific CTE facilities, and they were in the process of building their third and fourth one. We toured the third one. They had some amazing programs that I got a lot of information from. They were running full dentist office, full aviation programs. I mean, it was amazing. So it was really neat to glean from them. But one thing that I really got out of it, which was consistent, even we went to some smaller districts, is that students, it created relevancy and purpose for the students, even if they had interests outside the scope of what they were studying. And so we have this false notion that floats around education where we don't want kids to specialize. That was not what I got from any of these. And some of these, like we were at one school in Arlington, one that was over 100-year-old school that was a CTE school. Every student had to pick a major their freshman year, and they didn't let them change it. And yet none of them really complained about it. They all liked it, but they were able to also create articulated plans on how they're going to navigate past that. So I'm going to let Kendra talk a little bit more about a place that she went to.
Hi, good evening. I'm Kendra Tate. I'm the CTE coordinator with College and Career Services. So the school that we visited on the last day, one group of us, was the Dubisky Career High School. And I think what's nice is the word career that is very much in their title. And this school was it was part of the National Career Academy Coalition, and I was fortunate also a few weeks later, I signed up to go to a trip to a conference, and one of the director for this particular school was there, and he was presenting. So I actually, during our time there at Dubisky, I'm like, I'll see you there. And so it was, I felt like I got two things out of it. But with this school in particular has all the boxes that you should check that Jamin, Dr. Perso was talking about with the academies. They had these three academies. They were the Academy of Health Science and Engineering, which is everything from architectural design, your pharmacy tech, your dentistry, engineering. And then they had the Academy of Human Services and Transportation, which is your automotive, the tech, the collision, culinary, cosmetology. And then their third academy was the Business and Communication, which was everything from accounting, the financial services, the whole graphic communication, all those components of it. And as already has been spoken about, is that sense of the small learning communities. You could feel it actually when you just walked through the halls, and we were there all day. And while there, I mean, it's very clear that they're preparing students for post-secondary education and career. And they have two goals. The students will leave with multiple certifications, and they will have work-based learning experience. They will have hands-on related experiences. And they share that up to 80% of their students during their time there actually have some type of internship. So you can imagine the advantage you have. You're coming out of this rigorous program and you are in a career path, which they ask you to commit to for 4 years. But they do say at the end of your freshman year, if it's really not the right academy for you, you can change. But what's interesting is that they don't have sports, like competitive sports. They focus on their CTSOs. They have club sports. But if you're a student who wants to play football or you want to be, a swimmer, that won't be the school for you because this is a career high school. They do talk about there was opportunities for dual credit. Many of their instructors on campus there were able to teach through the Dallas College system, so students left there with credit. They also have one of the requirements that's at senior capstone, so students would present to a committee regarding their whole experience inside of their program pathway. which is very beneficial to them. But it really comes back to that culture of belonging. And what I found interesting too is that they start that building those skills early on. As freshmen, they have a competition where they start working on those soft skills, those employability skills, the essential skills. And so they know that you don't wait till a student is a junior or senior, because throughout their time there at Dubinsky, they're going to be interacting in a workplace environment. They're going to be having these experiences. And what is nice about it is among all their pathways, they already on campus have this tremendous bistro and a bakery where you learn the front of the house, the back of the house. And they already told us when you got there, you have to try the chicken fried steak and the gravy. And I'm not joking. I grew up in North Carolina. That was the best chicken fried steak and gravy I've ever had. Along with that, they had a print shop that is beyond. It's like many of the things we get is from Cole, like Cole Promo, when we order stuff. They had the designs, my name on it, and everything was there waiting for each of us. They had a bag and with our emblem on it, and everyone got this. And then when you walk through this state of the art shop, which these kids are working there, you see them doing all the all the embroidery and those pieces. But at the same time, you walk over to the aviation part. There's just so many layers of experiences and opportunities. But it is a lottery if you're coming from out of the district, and also in the district. I mean, there is a limited, capacity. And what was interesting too is that 70% are free and reduced lunch students there. But when you walk through those doors, they have a dress code, but there is just a sense of pride. You know how you talk about competence builds confidence? Well, you see it, I mean, in the halls and that sense of community. So I could go on and on about this school and many of the others that we visited, but it really did check all the boxes that, we describe within an academy model that I think we're definitely heading in that direction. So thank you for your time.
High school in Texas without football? Is that even not against their constitution or something?
It's actually a state law. So if they were a magnet or a charter school, they were not allowed to have competitive sports, because they didn't want people recruiting just for a football high school, I think. Yeah. Hi, I'm Carrie Bonilla. I'm the principal at Rock Ribbon Elementary, and I'm going to be joined by Cheryl Kammerer over on this side, who's our MTSS coordinator and one of our interventionist teachers that joined me on the trip. And we were excited because we were going to get the opportunity to go to Mary M. Bowles school, which I think is actually in Frisco. It was outside of the Dallas public school system, but they are a national PLC model school, and we got to go on a great day to just see so many amazing PLCs happening. We started off at the beginning of the day watching their district specialists as well as their school specialists meet with a couple of different grade level teams, and showed us just how they had systematized the process. The district IT department had worked with them to develop some specific data systems that would allow them to quickly see their progress monitoring information and be able to translate that into discussions about the instruction and growth and what do we need to do, for this group of students or that group of students. It was a very organic conversation. You could tell that they really were focused on, sometimes when you go in and see people that are either being videotaped for one of these or they've got an audience, it doesn't feel like it's a really meaningful conversation. They're kind of following a script. And you could tell that this, while they may have started with a script, this was something that just became second nature to them. And every teacher was sharing out on what they did that worked really well and what they had problems with, and someone else would then give them some supports with that piece of it. So it was a great model school. We were able to glean some frameworks and some different ways that we could maybe organize our MTSS meetings. We do a similar system at our school as far as having our specialists and our grade level teachers get together every month. And so we're always looking for a way to systematize that and make it a more efficient and effective process. So we were really excited to take away some of that with us. And then we also then got to go in and observe individual grade level teams as they focused on their specific subjects. So we would go in and they had, again, just some great little frameworks that they were able to use to make it a very efficient process where they could focus on their conversations about the instruction. So it wasn't just planning, what lesson are you going to teach? Oh, I'm going to do lesson 1. It was really, how are we going to teach this? What do we want them to learn? How are we going to know that they got that? They were doing all 4 of those questions that are really integral to the PLC model. Again, in a really natural way. And you could see how especially powerful it is when you've got teams with maybe a veteran teacher and somebody who's brand new, and really bringing that up. So no matter what classroom teacher the student is assigned to, they're getting a similar outcome because the teachers are able to collaborate and learn from each other. And it reiterates why it's so important for us to have those late start PLCs. And it was good to see it going at a really successful school in Texas as well. They also, at that time, the teachers were able to go in and access banks of lessons, intervention lessons that were proven to be effective and evidence-based that would be able to support them in small group reading, for example, or small group math supports for a student that might be struggling or need extensions. And so that was, it just gave us some ideas of how we could house some things differently within our school to make sure that we have access for people that might need a second grade lesson, but they're a fourth grade teacher to help support a student, or a fourth grade teacher that needs a fifth grade lesson to help extend for a student. So that part as well, we thought was really exciting to kind of bring back some of those ideas. And then we happened to visit their behavior specialist and learned about the Boys Town model, which has explicit lessons and talk about the expected academic and social behaviors that are going to help students really increase their access to the academics, right? Because if behaviors getting in the way, it doesn't just impact the child that's behaving out, it can impact the kids that are around them as well. And so we came back and we've signed up to do an online course with Boys Town, and it gives us access to all of those resources. We were able to get the little posters and things, and we're starting to work through with our behavior team, which is it's just a fancy name for all the other teachers that just wear one more hat in our building. But it's giving us some great concrete ideas of just those skills that a child might be lacking. We believe strongly in our district and as well as at Rock Rimmon that, kids aren't going to behave poorly and get in trouble because who wants to go get in trouble? It's because they're lacking some skill. And so if we can nail down what that skill is, then we'll be able to help them be more successful with the academics as well as their peers. So we were excited to find some concrete things that we could take back and use and apply within our school. And then Cheryl's going to talk a little bit more about some of the other pieces.
So as far as some of the alignment and things that were happening, so the Dallas School District, as you know, is a very large district. And well, I think you might probably know that. It's a very large district. And so when some of these kids are going to the different schools, they might be traveling, 40, 50 minutes one direction. And there's transfers that happen within the school district. And so one of the things that they have done is that they recently adopted a common curriculum across the entire district. And that was to really create more equitability for those kids that are moving and shifting within the schools. It also creates more consistency with what the district is able to provide for the resources for those for the different schools. Some of the some of the links and the standards-based resources that that were just helping to support the teachers with their development of their lessons and their curriculum. So that was something that was kind of a little bit different and interesting to see. Some of the schools, as I said, it was their first year. And so some of them are kind of struggling. However, they are still working at allowing their teachers to have that freedom of creativity with not locking them in too tightly to, like here's the standard and everybody has to be on the same page at the same time, and still kind of allowing that freedom and creativity of the teachers to also happen. One of the other things that we noticed is that the schools all have dyslexic specialists at their school, which is amazing. That just really help to provide the students with what they need and ensure that they are able to get that learning for the reading and to close those gaps. Another thing that we had picked up that we're trying to figure out ways to kind of implement this. They were starting at Mary Bowles School. They were trying to start an additional way to, a creative way to allow teachers to enhance their learning. And so what they are doing is they're providing professional development opportunities by allowing a handful of teachers to sign up each week they kind of figured, well, if we have them volunteer to sign up, then, they're going to be on board, then they're going to take that information to their teachers. But they have a handful of teachers, 5 teachers sign up for whatever PD is being offered. And specials teachers will cover their classes, and then the students then have other opportunities that they're exposed to, for the time that the teachers are being trained. And so that's something that we're kind of looking at a little bit. We loved some of the different creative ways that they're creating community, and the challenges that they're providing for the kids, and the connections that they're providing grade level, amongst the grade levels. And so with that piece of it, they're bringing in the challenges for the students to create the community, but also the opportunities for teachers to have that time away so that they can also do some additional learning and enhance their situations.
And tapping into the expertise of some of their teachers.
Oh, yes.
So
Yeah.
sometimes it was their teachers that might be teaching a particularly effective strategy to some of their peers.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So as Liz shared earlier, every evening for about an hour and a half to 2 hours, we did a debrief sharing out the key learnings and findings from the schools that were visited. So we tried to boil those down and have some nuggets here. And so we have a couple of folks just to share those quickly.
Good evening. My name is Lindsay Keller, assistant principal at Village High School. I've had the privilege of traveling on 3 research and design trips, and want to thank the board and the district as a whole for what I see as the most powerful professional learning I've had in my career. And also want to shout out the people on this team and the people that I've traveled with previously, because if they're representative of what we've got out there, we're in really, really good shape. As Jim mentioned, at the end of every day, we would debrief. And it's interesting that no matter what kind of crazy, amazing, innovative practices we saw, there were always common themes. And one of them had to do with the messaging that schools were providing to their families and their communities. Clear identity, strong culture, and consistent messaging around both were key to a school's success. So that was something that we sort of revisited each and every evening as we were debriefing, and commented on. No matter in what flavor that presented itself, it was always present. And Jaleesa is going to take second.
Hi, I'm Jaleesa Stewart. I'm a district administrator. I live in the world of preschool and special education. One of the takeaways that I had from this trip, we visited Thomas Marsh Middle School. It was actually the last day, so it was our last visit, and we were like, oh, we've seen so many schools. But it actually ended up being one of the best visits I saw. I'll kind of piggyback where this is a really good way to look at professional learning and learn what others are doing to see how it translates. So in Thomas Marsh, and speaking with their administration in the beginning, what they did was they noticed a lot of their students were coming in not knowing how to read, whether they were second language learners. So they started screening all of their students who came in, and then they enrolled them in an intensive reading program. So 90 minutes a day, students took an intensive reading program. What they did was they were intentional about it. Kindergarten and first grade teachers know how to teach kids how to read. So they were intentional and hired elementary school teachers, and they partnered with their special education department along with their interventionists, utilized the curriculum, really great reading. And then every day for 90 minutes, those students were enrolled, and they would typically graduate within 9 to 12 weeks. Their kind of goal or mantra was 98% accuracy. And you saw that posted everywhere in the building. So once the student got to 98% accuracy, they were kind of able to graduate out of the program. So that was really great to see, because they were literally like closing the gap for those kids who were coming into 6th grade not knowing how to read. Another thing that stuck out was all of their students were in honor classes, no matter if they had a 504, an IEP, no matter what, they were all in honors classes. So we were asking, how do you do that for ELA and algebra, having all of your kids who are in different levels? And so they talked about how they scaffold, they team teach in those classes. And if there is a student that may need to take the class again, they talked about how it exposes them to the curriculum so they'll do well and sets them up for success the next time they take the class.
Some more of our innovative and inspiring observations. I'm stand on my tippy toes. So Jamin mentioned a lot of this in his CTE presentation, so I won't hang on a lot of it, but I'll just reiterate that the Pathways courses and offerings really reflected the surrounding businesses and the needs of the community. That was evident in all of the pathways that we observed, and in that way, I think created really relevant experiences for students. And also that connection piece that we talk about with parents. I mean, when they're driving down the street and seeing industry, and then their students are working in classrooms and working on industry, that connection is really evident. I think we also, a big question for the team, especially those of us in high school looking at pathways, we had big questions about flexibility in pathways. What happens if a student commits to a pathway and then really hates what they're doing? Or is looking at another student's experience and wants to experiment with that one. Jamin mentioned that some of the schools asked students to commit. Others had a lot more flexibility. The Law Academy, you've heard a couple of times, we've talked about the Law Academy, and most students that were in that academy were going to pursue nothing at all to do with law. A lot of them went, what I would characterize as a 180 into something medical or vastly different, but still valued the experience by and large. And even with the students who were in a pathway where they asked them to commit, the flexibility piece was pretty key. So wherever they could offer flexibility for students and really listening to students, I think for me, one of the key takeaways was that student voice was evident in these pathways. They were expressing to teachers, to administrators, what they needed, what they wanted, what they aspired to, and the adults in the room were really listening to them.
And student engagement was something that I really took away. I enjoyed having conversations with some of the schools and students. There were even students who took us on their tours. That wasn't just administrators or their leaders that were taking us around. I remember one all-girls school, it was 6th graders who was taking us around in a pre-K through 8 school and talking with them and how empowered they were. They were excited to tell me about Wonder Woman Wednesday, where they have a woman from the career field come into the school to talk about their career field. And they talked about how that inspired them, that they could see a woman in a career field that you don't typically see. So seeing some of that engagement and have students having pride, also with the CTE programs, one of the career centers we went to had a program for significant students who had support needs, where they had culinary, robotics, and construction, and they had a pathway for those students to teach them those life skills and get them certain certifications that you don't see that often. They didn't leave, special education behind. So it was really affirming going on the trip and kind of knowing that D20 is kind of well on its way with CTE and PLCs and some of our innovative practices that we're doing here in the schools.
Okay, so what's next? I know we're short on time. So one thing that we took away is intentionality, and you've heard that from a lot of different ways around who are we as schools and as a school district, and how can we make sure to message that out. Collaboration needs to continue in the work that we're doing with PLCs. We've started down this path and doing really good work, but there's a lot more to do, and so we're going to continue on that. Career academies, as Jamin shared with you earlier, this is exciting work that we're continuing down the road on as well. Positive leadership. This is something that has come up almost every year, is around having positive relationships in the building, and focusing on relationships really does matter in creating a school that's excellent. We've just a couple of cool pictures here. You'll see on the top left, this is a fashion class, and they've made a dress out of, looks like newspaper or magazines. The middle school, that school in the middle, is the 100-year-old school that Jamin was talking about. And right next to it is the culinary program that's in that school. It's pretty exciting to see. On the bottom left, a super creepy picture. But it's a dentistry program that students are engaging in, and they were super excited to share that. I've done a lot of different things with that picture. And then in the middle is a broadcasting class. Up here, we have some different flight simulators from different programs across the city. Also some auto body and auto mechanic programs that are there as well. I believe that's a Stingray. Was super excited to see that as well. Any questions?
Ms. Shandy?
I was going to say, anybody else before I get started? No, great stuff. Thank you so much for sharing. Just a couple of impressions along the way and reading your bullet points. The tight alignment of curriculum across the system quote was powerful. I felt like, does this make us rethink our site-based curriculum at all, seeing how powerful it was in these schools and whatnot? So I think the autonomy of curriculum across the districts that you saw speaks volumes. Would you agree?
Yeah, the title alignment, I would say, what we saw was that there was not a lot of variability. So then when you remove the variability, you're talking then very much about the instruction and the curriculum and the assessment and all those things from the same place. As a former middle school principal at Eagle View Middle School, I had 5 elementary schools that had 5 different math curriculum that were feeding into me. So that was a real challenge, right, for our 6th grade teachers to know exactly what to do and how to do that. I think we're really working on removing some of those variables from our own system, but that's exactly what I think you're describing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you got to see that in practice and how powerful that was. So they all seem to know, understand, and embrace their organization's value statement a lot. You guys talked about that, that core observation. And I would just ask, how does our value statement compare to that? When you think about, meeting one of them in an elevator and getting their elevator pitch, it sounds like they all are very, very familiar with who they are, how they contribute and into that mission statement. And can we say the same for D20? Do we all know what our values are? Do we all know what our elevator pitch is and how you are contributing to that mission and how do our students know our elevator pitch? I don't know that we know that, so it's something that we could work on really well to cultivate that in our own program.
I agree. As we continue to roll out the strategic plan and the different components around that, I think that's a good focus area.
Yeah. Let's see here. The student voice part of learning to self-advocate yourself out of a track that maybe you're not in is such a valuable life skill. So it was great to hear that they're doing that and they're teaching that, and something that we should take away from. But and then just the last thing I have is I love what you said, how powerful that this experience was for you. Maybe one of the most powerful experiences you've had, because my question was, how do you measure the ROI on these trips? How do you measure the return on investment? And I think that was a really powerful statement. I think it's still a great question to ask. How do we measure the return on investments of these trips? But I love to hear what you said. So
I think it's a couple of things. One is there is a different level of relationship building, networking, and building up of each other's strengths when you have an experience like this. So there's that. But then there's also the hard and fast. There are programs that we don't have in District 20 that we're seeing in other districts and other states. And those programs, many programs have found their ways, or practices. And sometimes we go to a school to look at, say, an aeronautics program, but what we really find is maybe a discipline matrix or discipline approach that makes more sense for a school, right? So that sometimes you find things that you weren't even looking for in these schools, and there's just some real value in spending time with other professionals in the field.
Yeah. Thank you all for your.
Ms. Chaney, I'd say along the lines of that, Ms. Wellhoff talked about already implementing, looking at 10 things that they're going to be implementing. So I think hearing testaments like that is really important and powerful for that ROI as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
Board, any other questions? Thank you so much. I really appreciate everyone.
Welcome.
Next up is the choice enrollment update. Superintendent Haber.
Yes, Dr. Jim Smith, Assistant Superintendent for Planning and Engagement.
Yeah, that's good. Good evening. So I provided this document earlier today at your dais. So if you could just pull that out, we're going to look at it just for a minute in the presentation. But thank you for the opportunity to share information about the choice process. We were making some changes to that, and we'll talk about why we're making those changes. But I also wanted to introduce the administrator for Central Registry and the true expert for this work, Miss Lisa Porter. Thank you, Lisa, for being here. So a question might be, why do we even allow choice in District 20? And well, since 1990 in Colorado, it's state law that districts must allow school choice and was initially considered a civil rights issue. The Public School Act of 1990 truly did begin a series of changes intended to allow families to choose the school and a program that best meets the needs of their child. So this is the point when, if you wouldn't mind just taking a look at the data that I've shared with you, what you see is a theoretical school population if we didn't have any choice students in District 20. And you have the elementary, middle school, and high schools broken down.
It's declining.
It appears to be declining, yes. One school I'd point out is Academy Endeavor Elementary at 78 students total. They actually have 354 students in that school, but if we didn't have any choice, they would have 78 students. Another one I'd point out is Rampart High School. If we didn't have choice, they would have 719 students, and currently they have 1,332. So significant impact of choice in our district. And as we know, when students come to our district, that does bring in funds, and those funds allow us to have programming and increased staffing, and it allows us to have some of these exciting programs that we've been talking about all night in District 20. Any other thoughts before I move on? Okay. So why are we even looking at changing a process? A few reasons here. We want to maximize utilization of available seats in our schools. We know that we really can't have 100% optimization of seats in our schools because we just have a lot of different programs and moving features in our schools, and we can't be at 100%, but we want to maximize to the greatest extent possible our seats that are available. We want to ensure prioritization of our in-district families. It's difficult when we have a family in District 20 that moves here and they have a school that's across the street from where they live, but they go to the school and the school says, well, we don't have any more seats available. So we want to find ways that we can really ensure the optimization of prioritization of in-district families and address growth-related challenges. If you drive around a district, you know that there are different growth rates right now. If you look at the west side, if you look at the east side, they're very different in how many houses are being built and the kinds of growth that we're seeing there. This here, you'll probably remember this from Don Smith. He did this presentation a couple of meetings ago. It just shows the enrollment by area, high schools in this sense, how many seats we have available and how many seats are currently being taken in enrollment. This one's west side. And again, the west side, you'll see differences in how many seats are available just based on the growth that we're seeing over there and also the aging of certain areas. And then east side capacity. I'd also like to highlight on this slide that Village Middle School is listed on both elementary school data with 15 students and middle school data at 116 students. So it's kind of misleading to think Village Middle School has 15 students. So they do. It's just on the elementary side. And for only one more year, we have 5th grade. And so we'll be rolling out of that next year and having 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade only. All right, so here are the significant changes that we're looking at. To cap or not to cap. Currently, we have set caps by grade level to serve as enrollment guides for schools by grade. In our effort to prioritize in-district families and to keep families together in the same school, starting next year, schools will be given flexibility to go 2 students beyond the cap per classroom at the elementary level. This should, ideally, reduce the overflow challenges that we face each year. And the caps you can see there by grade level, K through 5. Holding neighborhood seats. This is somewhat of a controversial issue, but currently principals choose the number of seats that are held at each grade level for families who might move into the neighborhood after the school year started. This has been a challenge when schools hold large numbers of seats that are never filled. Moving forward, principals will use a range of 5% to 10% of the total school population to determine an acceptable number of seats to hold, and will share that number with their PSSG or their supervisor and discuss the proposed plan and what makes sense. For example, if a school has 500 students enrolled and they're in a high growth area, they might want to use the 10% or 50 students to hold seats for families who might move into the neighborhood late. As we know, if those seats aren't filled, that's money that we're losing as a district, right? So we want to optimize the use of all of our seats. Annual review. So we have choice students that are in district and out of district, in district choice, and Lisa can correct me if I'm wrong, but we're at about 20% of all of our students are in district choice. That means 20% of our students are moving around in district in schools that aren't their neighborhood schools. And then 17% of our students are out of district choice. So bringing in a lot of folks too. So it's important that we look at all of our students every year who are choice students to determine if this is the right placement for them or the right place for those students. If there's a determination based on attendance, discipline, academic performance that this isn't working out, they'll be asked to return to the neighborhood school. Right, and here's the timeline. As you can see, the window just opened. We have what we're calling priority window and also main choice window that opened yesterday, and we've had 726 signed applications in 24 hours. So Lisa's team was really working hard. All right. So the key here is that the priority window will close January 31st, the end of this month, and in-district students will be placed based on their request and choice first. And then in March 13th, the out-of-district choice students will be placed. And then finally, the rolling choice or post-choice are for those students who have applied kind of after that fact and will be accepted at that point. Do you have anything to add to that, Lisa? You want to stand? You have to speak at the thing.
Is basically for out of district, but that's only because we do continue enrolling all year long for the in-district students. They will just directly enroll, and they'll have the opportunity to do what's called open enroll when they first come into the district, in which they can try and select and choice into a school when they first come. So I wanted to make clear there's still that opportunity there. It is not that we just move on to out of district focus. It's still in district focus. Okay.
All right, what questions do you have for us?
Ms. Yanez.
So I know that we have so much growth on the east side, obviously not on the west side. We're an older community over on our west side. Have we collected any perception data on if lower enrollment numbers on the west side are really strictly based on the new growth on the east side, population moving on, newer population moving to the east side, or if there are any other reasons surrounding those choices?
Yeah, so we collect a lot of data, as you've seen, about a lot of things, but we don't have, and we haven't collected perception data. Allison and I were just talking about this. I don't know if you want to share anything, Allison, from the marketing perspective, because that does help us understand why would somebody be leaving. And we know that we do lose students to District 38 in particular, District 49, but we also gain a lot of students from all the districts around us, including 38 and 49. It's more of a positive gain than, but we do lose students. So the question might be, how can we keep them here? Allison?
Every time. I would just echo that. As a marketer, it's really almost impossible to develop strategic targeted marketing plans when you don't understand the why. And so, we always say in marketing, if you want to know, just ask. And so if we could just ask, why are you coming? How did you hear about us? Why are you leaving? And maybe have some in-depth conversations around that, that'll tell us a lot, because if there's two things, we're either not attracting people, which is one problem, or we're attracting people and then we're losing them, which is another problem. And it's hard to know how to increase enrollment if we don't know where that problem lies. So I would be a huge advocate for exit surveys.
Yeah, do we know, can I just talk? Do we know how many are leaving to homeschool or, that type of stuff?
Lisa.
Generically collect that data because each student that leaves, we ask them what their intentions, what they're doing, where they're going to. So we do have categories of, I'm going to a different Colorado school, I'm going out of state, I'm moving from the country, I'm doing homeschool. So we do have that information, but we don't have the why behind it. So we have the general idea of who's leaving for what, but not why.
Yeah, for instance, during the pandemic, as you can imagine, tons of families move their students from public into homeschool. But then after the pandemic, many of those families move their students back into a public setting.
Any other questions?
Just one more. When you still look at the differences, like I think it was between like Rampart High School and Pine Creek, maybe there was like a 500 plus student difference. Are we moving our staffing accordingly? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. So when a when a school begins to show a loss of enrollment, that school does begin to lose staff. And it's a harsh reality of if your school is shrinking, we can't have the same staffing level, then you have to lose staff as well, right? And so that's part of the driver for schools to say, we want to bring students in so we can keep our staffing, we can keep our programs, because oftentimes when you lose staff, you're losing programs, and that becomes kind of a cycle, right?
Right.
You don't want to be caught in.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. 8.E, Public Schools on Military Installations Program Update. Superintendent Haber.
Yes, and as Ms. Becky Allen, Chief Financial Officer, comes to the podium, I just want to say I am super excited about the work that has been done on this program. Really, it has been a true team effort. Just a shout out to Mr. Smith and our principals, Principal Murray and Principal Olson, all went out to DC, right, last year to engage into this possibility of having a grant with the Department of Defense to replace or refurbish Douglas Valley Elementary as well as Air Academy. And so they went out there and just built some great relationships and got that ball rolling. And then as I got here and as I was learning about the program, I got a call from Principal Murray and Principal Olson, and they said, you know, we're excited about this process, and we'd really like to have a way to serve our military students in the middle school ages, because right now, the students who live on base have to get on a bus and go for a half-hour bus ride to Eagle View Middle School, which is an amazing middle school. But for some of our military families, as you can imagine, you know, some of those students can get shuffled around a bit. And is there a way we could provide an opportunity for them to stay on base? But when we looked at it, there really wasn't a need for a full-scale middle school. So I had the opportunity in another district to work with K-8 principals. My own son went to a PK-8 school and had an amazing experience. So I kind of floated that idea to the principals, and then we just started to get together with the team, with Becky and Principal Olson and Murray and Mr. Smith, and just started brainstorming what would the possibility be if we could do a pre-K through 8 at the Douglas Valley site, and then, you know, having the students go to Air Academy. And then we started thinking about the career academies, and, you know, with the exciting aviation academy that Principal Olson is doing, could we have like STEM programming within the 6-8 program, which we would give priority to military students for, and then they could go on to Air Academy? And would there be opportunities if we had a pre-K through 8 program for those students which is they're so close in proximity to go from a PK-8 at Douglas Valley and go back and forth at the high school for some of their classes. So it was just been great to do some dreaming with that. And so our team just kept working hard, and then came the real, I would call it a grind. I think our CFO would say, no, this is the fun part. And that is all of the really a shout out to Becky Allen and her hard work with her team on really grinding through all the numbers and going back and forth with the grant writers and just getting every detail in place. So we're super excited. We were able to send that grant proposal in finally with everybody's help and everyone really jumping in and putting those details in place for Douglas Valley. And I know I've had the opportunity, along with Dr. Smith and Dr. Pariseau, as well as Ms. Allen, to reach out to our business partners like Integris. Ms. Allen reached out to as I've shared before, been reaching out to some of the leaders at UC Health and BlueStack and some of our tech companies. And we have businesses right now that are excited. We're planning a field trip. I think we finally landed a date to go out to Air Academy, have them walk that campus and just dream, like, if you were to partner with us, what would that partnership look like, and how could we build some career academies that would directly impact and support those businesses? And they have implied, some of them, that they would even be willing to help with some of the financial needs for that potentially. So it's really exciting, and we're just now kind of putting together what could that look like at Air Academy, and I'm just excited about it. So I wanted to just kind of put that out there, and Ms. Allen will give you some more detail around that.
Yeah, thank you. That was a great overview. And again, thank you to all the people from Brett Smith and Chris Garnhart, Mike Redmond, Dan Moores, Adrian, Dan have done a fantastic job. Superintendent Haber, Allison has been a part of the process. So it is definitely a team effort, undoubtedly. So what is this Public Schools on Military Installations program? I call it PSMIP. I don't really know if it's supposed to be called that, but that is the language that I have used. But in a nutshell, the Department of Defense has a program, and periodically they go out and examine and assess every single public school that sits on a military installation. And the last time they did this assessment was in 2018. They evaluated 161 schools, and they identified, if you're number one on the list, you're in dire need. If you're 161, your need is less in terms of the quality of the facility and the amount of deficiencies that it has in terms of what is considered acceptable within building codes and all of those pieces. So what we learned last year, towards the end of the year, the Department of Defense contacted us and they said, hey, we want you to know that Air Academy High School is 61 on the list and Doug Valley is 71 on the list. And both of those schools qualify for funding. And that's what kicked the ball, started to roll that ball, and the meeting in Washington, D.C. and all of that. Now, we do know that this is prompted because these two schools are aging. There are two oldest schools in the district. Doug Valley is 65 years old, Air Academy 64 years old. I was asked a question about, are a lot of students choicing out of these two schools because of the age of the building? I don't see data to support that. Now, I will also tell you, we don't necessarily ask if you choice out, did you leave because the building is aging? However, when we look at the choice data, it does not look no red flags come out about the higher choice numbers there. This really is about the fact that these two buildings are aging. They have the bulk. When you look at our facility needs, they carry the bulk of the needs. And we know that the money to address those needs with each passing year just becomes more and more challenging. And the beauty of this program is what is at the bottom of this slide. The Department of Defense will pay 80%, and the local school district pays 20%. And you're going to see some of these numbers in a moment. Without going for bonds, a very significant debt issuance to try to replace or heavily renovate and make additions to these schools without a program like this would be very difficult and challenging and would require voter approval. So you'll get a better sense in a moment as I give a few more details. So Douglas Valley, where are we in this process? There are two steps to the proposal process with the federal government. One is a design. You send, here is a proposal for what we are asking for money to design this particular new facility. Now, Mr. Garnhart did a fantastic job because our proposal is more like a design and construction. But we figure, how can they decide that they want to invest this type of money in a design if they don't see what our vision is for the future? And so the big pieces to draw your attention, right now, Douglas Valley does not have a preschool. And that causes continuity challenges for students. If students can start at Doug Valley at the preschool level, it just makes their transition and their experience at the school and the intervention that can be provided for academic excellence even stronger. Likewise, as Superintendent Haberer mentioned, of course, we would be asking for grades 1 through 5, but also asking for grades 6 through 8. Not a comprehensive middle school. We're picturing top 60 students at each grade level, and they would be prioritized. The military families would gain priority. Now, if a family really wanted that comprehensive middle school experience, then they could go to Eagleview, but this opportunity would be available. So very quickly, this is the existing K-5 site. And what we'd be looking at here is a schematic. This may not be the final schematic, but it's a good rendering of what is being looked at. And this shows you the K-8 and the common spaces. We're not going to build a gym for PK5 and a second gym for 6-8. It's one library, it's one auditorium to build upon efficiencies of those spaces. And then certainly there would be a top floor. And if you'll notice, it's really just limited to a lot of bare bones, several classrooms for each grade level, because again, we're talking about 60 students at each grade level, tops at the middle school. Again, capitalizing on the shared spaces and capitalizing on efficiencies. For example, when I was principal at Discovery Canyon Middle School, I had students who were ready for Algebra 2 in the 7th grade. I was very fortunate because I could work with the high school principal and have those students go and get that learning. The same type of thing would be happening with the proximity between Doug Valley and Air Academy, that there would be able to be that collaboration and sharing of students to give the best opportunities for them. Now, just as a side note on here, if you take a look at this, on the bottom left, you see the rendering of a new site. On the top right, you see a red dotted line. That represents where the current school is. There is a lack of efficiency to try to renovate Doug Valley. It is more cost effective in the long run to simply tear down and rebuild. But what is nice is we don't have to have a staging area. When construction would begin on this new site, everyone would still be attending the current Doug Valley. And it's not until we begin occupancy of the new site that then the demolition would occur. So you save a lot of money that way because you're not trying to stand kids up in trailers or other types of areas. Again, all subject to change. This is early in the process. Yet you can get a good sense of what is being dreamed about and that is being truly pursued. Please know that this is an aggressive pursuit. We have meetings as our team twice a month, every 2 weeks. Our team extends beyond District 20. We collaborate in those meetings with partners at Department of Defense. We're assigned project managers. Colonel Stallworth has been in some of our meetings. Lieutenant Colonel Myhouse works with the civil engineering. He attends all of our meetings. So it truly is a collaboration that is a top priority for us. And of course, our principals attend, Chris, Mr. Smith, his team. And so it's a constant piece that we're looking at because we know as the time goes, the prices get higher and higher. So we try to be very mindful of that. Big picture, our design proposal is in. We expect to hear in the spring whether it's awarded or not. If it is, they have told me at the Department of Defense, you can kind of say at that point, you're building a new school at Doug Valley, or someday when we get to Air Academy, which is a few years, you'll see that timeline, same thing. If we can get awarded that design proposal, that's what we can share. Construction, our best estimate is that it would take 2 years, and construction would begin in winter of 2026 and be done about 2 years later. It takes time, especially on a military installation. There are things called NEPA and SHPO and all of these acronyms. They all mean time and some money and really a lot of analysis and partnership. And so those things take time, but we need to do everything right. So that's why it takes a little more than if we just had a parcel of land that we were building on that's not on a military installation. Just some brass tacks to give you some estimates. And again, these could go up, but this is what we're looking at right now. So what you see in that second column on the left, you see design and construction. It says including soft costs. Examples of soft costs are things like that environmental study I just mentioned. Or if we had to have trailers for students, we would not need that for Doug Valley. Another thing that we're going to be asking for is a white van, one of our fleet vans that we can ask for reimbursement in the soft cost so that kids can drive. Not they won't drive. The teacher or another staff member would drive from Doug Valley to take those students who maybe want to take American Sign Language as a 7th grader or Algebra 2. So those are the types of those are examples of those types of things. You can see the expense, a total of about $55 million. But remember, we are responsible for 20%, which is about $11 million. These costs are escalated due to Chris's good work to 2026. So we already have some escalation in here. If there were major delays, these costs then could go up further, but at least it gives us a good idea. My last slide on Doug Valley, and I'm not going to go in a lot of detail, but just how do we pay for this? So we already in the budget this year, so the one that was presented to the board in the spring last year in May and June that was adopted, we started a PISMIP reserve, 2.7 million. I know it doesn't, but hey, we've got to start somewhere. The rest of the dollars will come from a combination of mid-year. We know that at the next meeting, I will bring you a mid-year budget. And I am going to actually be recommending, it's going to be between about $5 and $6 million that goes into this PISMIP reserve. So my hope is we are going to be significantly closer to that 11 million. But then we will be strategically looking at our capital reserve allocations each year. Mr. Smith has been a great partner in doing that work. And so that will also, there may be some allocations that come in the budget, maybe a little less allocation to our facilities budget because they have already adequate funds to handle all of the projects slated for next year. And that's more money we can put here. Remember the buying power. $1 we put in turns into $5. That's the once in a lifetime opportunity at our fingertips here. The other thing I just wanted to mention, you see at the bottom, we are also working with staff at the Colorado Department of Education regarding a BEST grant. You may have heard of that. It's a grant. Some of the money, people ask, where do marijuana dollars go? Some of them go to this BEST program. It stands for Building Excellent Schools Today. And so we are working with them to see if we could perhaps get a grant from them as well for Doug Valley and Air Academy to help with our match. For Air Academy, I try to beat these targets, but it's certainly our goal by fall and hopefully even sooner, but by fall to have a full comprehensive design proposal out to Air Academy. We're looking more at a renovation addition because of the costs, because here's what's a little different than Doug Valley. One of the things about this program, remember I said in 2018 they did this assessment of the sites? Whatever improvements you put into that site after that time, they may count those dollars. We've put about $10.5 million into Air Academy High School. So if we were to do a renovation addition, when we look at our 20%, they may count almost $10 million. That's a big deal. So that is one of the big prompts. We're estimating construction start about fall of 2028. That would be just about when Doug Valley had wrapped up. Again, subject to change. What you see here is a rendering of the existing building, and you see some red areas. Those are additions. And you're like, that's it, Becky? Much of the work of Air Academy is also not just what you see, if you will, but the HVAC systems, the electrical, the plumbing, all of those systems throughout the building. Because the deal is that whatever you do with the money, you have to guarantee the federal government a 30-year life. I can't just put some kind of HVAC that, oh, I think it'll give us 5 years. They won't sign off on that. What might something like this? Take a look, about $208 million for a renovation addition project. When you look at a match, about 41 million. Can you imagine if the 10 million came true? Then we're down to 31 million. Again, big dollars, but it's just we're trying to strategize everything we can. Those costs I just showed you are 2028 escalations. Now, how might we fund Air Academy? Well, can we get that match? We're going to push as hard as we can, and our partners at the Department of Defense know that. I'm very excited to share that they're excited about this project because they told us they have to do an on-site visit, but they were not going to come yet. They usually wait until further along in the process when the whole construction proposal goes in. We were just notified that they are coming in March. They felt like the proposal looks solid. They're excited. We're already looking at days. And believe me, we'll be showing them Doug Valley, Air Academy, already have let our friends at the Academy know. So we're really excited about that. Obviously, we'll continue with this strategy once we get the full funding for 11 million. Then we'll be using those same strategies to keep that deposit going. The BEST grant, community partnerships, as Superintendent Haberer mentioned. And, you know, Director Shandy has already shared so many good ideas about fundraising efforts in our community. And again, the power of those dollars times 5. And our last resort would be a bank loan. Again, my just thanks to all those folks that I shared in the beginning. Would not be possible without the leadership of Superintendent Haberer, the leadership of Mr. Smith as he kicked this project off in May, and our principals and our friends and partners at the Air Force Academy, Chris Garnhart. They've done just an amazing job. What questions might you have for us?
Board, any questions? Just wanted to say thank you to your team, and you touched on this a little bit. So the 10.5 million that we've already spent on the renovations there, if we were to completely rebuild, we would lose out on the production of that because we're eliminating the updates that we'd already done, correct?
That is correct. So even though they know you made them, if they're not still basically in play after the renovation or addition, so if you're going to demolish and start from scratch, they're no longer there, so you do not get credit for those.
Thank you.
And because of just the cost point of that full comprehensive high school, that's why certainly that is a likely scenario that we're pursuing. We certainly will continue to be open and ideas of the architects and all of that, but that's the main reason that we're focusing on that piece.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I thought of a question while you asked your question.
Please go ahead.
Is there, you know, how when you remodel a old historic home, you have to keep a percentage of that home intact? Is there a similar percentage for the school that you would have to keep intact to keep that remodel renovation label?
I don't know what the exact percentage is. You know, for the 10.5, I'm just going to use this. Let's say we decide we're going to knock down a portion. If 3 million of work were there, that's off the table. So it's really maintaining where those improvements were made.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you.
All right, next is item F, annual monitoring report for policy EL 2.9, communication and support to the board. Superintendent Haberer.
Yes, this one is mine, and EL 2.9, the superintendent will not permit the Board of Education to be inadequately informed or unsupported in its work. And for each of those elements that go under 2.9, provided evidence and data related to each of those elements. And each of the statements under those elements said that the superintendent is in compliance with each of those elements. I would draw your attention to 2.96, talks about the BSMRs, the board superintendent relationship, and we did put those BSMRs for my superintendency into the spring because we've only had, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. So, but this report is from as a whole year. So in arrears, when we look at the superintendency before me, we had evidence there too that at that point that they were in alignment and in compliance. So are there any questions?
All right. Moving on to the MRE. Is the superintendent's interpretation of the policy reasonable? Is there sufficient evidence to determine compliance for each section? Are all sections in compliance? Recognition of exemplary performance or concerns regarding performance? Would you like to see additional or different evidence, or should any part of this policy be changed in the next monitoring report cycle? Do you see evidence which is extraneous or no longer necessary? All right, thank you. Next is changes to administrative policies. Superintendent Haber.
Yep, and we have Tanya Thompson, our General Counsel. Ms. Thompson.
Good evening. In your packet, you have been provided a list of the policies that have been updated since July 1st of 2023. That's the natural start of the new school year. And so July 1st is when the bulk of administrative policy updates are made. So on July 1st, you'll notice that there was roughly 61 updates made. To date, since July 1, there have been 120 policy updates made, and each of those updates are summarized for you within the document that was attached in your board packet.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Nope, wait, sorry, I missed that.
There, yes, I'm on. Okay. There were a couple policies that were highlighted in red. What was the meaning behind that? Is that just?
Oh, I have to own that. So my team uses color coding as part of our double check and balance system to make sure that our documents are updated. So those were things that were either renamed or retired that we needed to go back in, and it was a signal to ourselves that just did not get changed to the black font color before it was uploaded to your packet. So my apologies. We'll pay a little bit closer attention to detail next report.
I color code too. I have one other question. So there was one that was retired. Policy IGAC and IGACR, and all of that was added to IMB instead.
That's a really good question. So IGAC and IGACR were initially adopted by the district in 1994. And they were our teaching religious content policies. They had not been updated or revisited since 2006. However, our teaching controversial topics policy, which is bear with me just a moment, IMB and IMBR, were analogous and covered more broadly that. So we had adopted IMB, we had adopted IMBR, which is the teaching controversial topics policy. Those had been maintained and updated over time. And then we realized that there was the religious content that pretty much said the same thing. There were a few parts that were not consistent. And so we went to CASB's model policy, and CASB only maintains IMB and IMBR now and encompasses the content that was in IGAC.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Ms. Thompson. All right, next, 8H, Annual Monitoring Report for Governance Process Policy 4.6, Board Officers' Roles. Ms. Cons.
Thank you, Mr. Salt. So we have the next 4 agenda items are all me, since they're available to the public and the board already reviewed them. I'm not going to detail the policies right now, but I'm just going to briefly reply And then at the end of the fourth, I have some general comments about all the policies. So I'll get to that. This is the annual monitoring report for governance process policy 4.6, board officer roles. The evidence used in monitoring this policy was Board of Education meeting agendas, debriefing notes, and Board of Education meeting minutes. To the best of my knowledge, this information is accurate as of December 15th, 2023, and this report should reflect that the BOE is in compliance with GP 4.6.
Thank you, board. Any questions? Is the interpretation of the policy reasonable? Is there sufficient evidence to determine compliance for each section? Are all sections in compliance? Recognition of exemplary performance or concerns regarding performance. Would you like to see additional or different evidence, or should any part of this policy be changed in the next cycle? Do you see any evidence which is extraneous or no longer necessary? Okay, thank you. Next, the annual monitoring report for GP 4.10, board members code of conduct, Ms. Cons.
Thank you. So this period was monitored from December 16th, 2022 through December 15th, 2023. Let's see here, evidence. There were no board member violations during this monitoring period. The evidence used during this period for the policy, Board of Education meeting agendas, minutes, and video recordings, Board of Education debriefing notes, signed confidentiality affidavits. To the best of my knowledge, this information is accurate as of December 15th, 2023. This report should reflect that the BOE is in compliance with GP 4.10.
Thank you. Board, any comments or questions? All right. Is the interpretation of the policy reasonable? Is there sufficient evidence to determine compliance for each section? Are all sections in compliance? Recognition of exemplary performance or concerns regarding performance? Would you like to see additional or different evidence, or should any part of this policy be changed in the next monitoring cycle? Do you see any evidence which is extraneous or no longer necessary? Okay. Next, item J, annual monitoring report for governance process policy 4.11, conflict of interest, Ms. Cons.
Thank you. This period was December 16th, 2022 as well through December 15th, 2023. There were no critical terms needing defining. Evidence. There's no evidence that any violations have occurred with GP 4.11. No BOE member has a personal or financial interest in any matter pending before the Board of Education. No members of the Board of Education are employees of District 20. No members of the Board of Education receive compensation for services rendered to the district without full disclosure. No Board of Education member has a conflict of interest in the exercise of the member's fiduciary responsibility. And no Board of Education member has accepted a gift of substantial value, which might cause improper influence. Ms. Becky Allen and Mr. Cameron Smart also have provided signed statements verifying these compliance for those specific items. To the best of my knowledge, I know of no specific violations of protocol in GP 4.11 for the time period monitored. It is my opinion that the BOE is in compliance with GP 4.11.
Thank you. Board, any comments? Is there sufficient evidence to determine compliance for each section? Are all sections in compliance? Recognition of exemplary performance or concerns regarding performance? Would you like to see additional or different evidence, or should any part of this policy be changed in the next monitoring cycle? Do you see evidence which is extraneous or no longer necessary? Okay, thank you. Next is annual monitoring report for GP 4.12, process for addressing board member violations, Ms. Cons.
Thank you. Same period monitored for the last year through December 15th, 2023. There were no Board of Education member violations during this monitoring period. The evidence used was Board of Education debriefing notes, Board of Education meeting agendas, minutes, and video recordings. All evidence is available through the Board of Education Secretary. After reviewing all the evidence, there is no indication that the Board of Education is out of compliance with any section. We've done a good job of operating within the parameters described in executive limitations and the board superintendent relationships and governance policies. To the best of my knowledge, this information is accurate, and the report should reflect that the BOE is in compliance with GP 4.12. And prior to our report, I'm just going to give a brief summary of those last four. So in a desire to address comments from community members over the last few months, I would like to give further feedback on these reports being found in compliance. 4.10 Board Members Code of Conduct. Please do note the monitoring report is for the entire last year, so previous board members are monitored as well as current board members. In 4.10(1)B, I have observed that any gainful employment by board members has not affected D20 in the slightest. Focus is maintained on representing the D20 community. There is no evidence of a conflict of interest. 4A states focus on issues rather than personalities. We maintain a focus on issues, and I invite the community to do the same. Focus on ideas, not people. It is self-evident that every person on this earth is unique with specific and particular values. Attacking people garners zero value, while addressing ideas and issues fosters understanding and collaboration. Various memberships or associations do not automatically imply conflicting loyalty, and furthermore are common and allowable in a community. The board, past and present over the last year, has maintained accountability to the entire district. The board has conscientiously enacted decisions and crafted the best possible solutions from diverse opinions. In light of other recent comments regarding these policies, please note Mr. Wilburn was not a Board of Education director at the time of any complaints addressed against him. While my personal philosophy is to not perpetuate a negative with more of the same, I do understand the desire to educate our community of age-inappropriate materials in our libraries. The superintendent and Board of Education are creating opportunities for the community to come together on this topic, and this will commence this semester.
Thank you. Board, any questions? All right. Is there sufficient evidence to determine compliance for each section? Are all sections in compliance? Recognition of exemplary performance or concerns regarding performance? Would you like to see additional or different evidence, or should any part of this policy be changed in the next monitoring cycle? Do you see evidence which is extraneous or no longer necessary? All right, thank you. Ms. Cortez, how many people have signed up to speak during public comment section number 1?
During section number 1, there are 8 individuals signed up.
Thank you. The board welcomes comments of our community members. Speakers must sign up prior to 1 p.m. via an online form, and they must limit their remarks to 2 minutes or less. In deference to ASD 20 students will be allowed to speak first during the public comment section. Following any students, speakers who wish to comment on an agenda item will be called in order of their sign up. We also ask speakers to address the board and not others in the room. All speakers will be notified of the remaining time via the mounted monitors behind the dais. When the time is ended, the microphone will turn off. Supplemental written materials can be given to the security guards, and they will be delivered to the board secretary. Profanity or any disrespectful behavior will not be tolerated. We greatly value all comments from the public. However, the board will not be responding this evening.
So in our last meeting, we tried a new format. So I'm going to announce 3 names at a time. It's like a baseball game, sort of. And so if you can just be prepared to easily transition up to the podium and sort of be on deck. So our first 3 public speakers. The first is Jennifer Bergstrom. We will then have Tim Hoffman, followed by Susie Bauer. So first is Jennifer Bergstrom.
Okay, hopefully that works. My name is Jennifer Bergstrom. I am a middle school and a high school parent here in District 20. The last item of business on tonight's agenda is that the Board of Education has planned an executive session in which they're going to be receiving legal advice regarding education saving accounts. These are called ESAs. I'm going to jump straight to the point. I'm highly concerned about why my local school board is receiving any sort of legal counsel regarding ESAs. An educational savings account program goes by a more common name, vouchers. This is a way in which public tax dollars are taken out of the public sector. Typically, school vouchers or ESA programs are a state level program. Colorado does not participate in any such program at this time. It is not up to our local board to try to push through anything of this magnitude. A few years ago, Douglas County School Board tried and ultimately failed to introduce a voucher type program. Along with this failed attempt, they won a nice litigation. ESAs take public funds out of local schools, often with very little oversight. Students and staff are the ones who feel these losses. ESAs are part of a growing attempt to dismantle the public education system. They encourage doubt and mistrust of teachers and of the local district and can increase student segregation. If D20 foolishly tries to pioneer a local ESA program, it absolutely will result in lawsuits. This will cost us huge sums of money, and I do not want to see D20 saddled with similar outrageous legal fees that Woodland Park School District is currently facing. Any attempt to start a local voucher program would be both arrogant and irresponsible. Our board should be focusing on making D20 stronger and not tearing it apart. Thank you.
Next is Tim Hoffman. And then I would encourage Karen Guevara to get ready. Thank you.
I'm Tim Hoffman. For the last decade, I've worked for a billion-dollar global organization that focuses on the welfare, safety, provision, and development of children. Concurrently, I work part-time for an organization focused on developing the health, well-being, and potential of children. 8 years ago, my wife and I built a school in Ethiopia. Brighton Academy currently serves 900 plus children with a holistic approach that emphasizes nutrition, education, physical, mental, and social health, as well as character development and integrity. Because of the work I do, I train rigorously on the topics of child protection, child advocacy, and child welfare. I'm required to be certified annually, and I'm tested on how to identify signs of child endangerment and to reckless behavior of adults in the vicinity of children. Not only am I trained and tested on recognizing it, I'm required to understand how to address it and what's required of me when I see it occur. Because of this, I believe I'm amply qualified to speak on the protection and well-being of children in academic and community environments. It's my sole intent to make it crystal clear that an active board member has displayed behaviors, both publicly and in supposed privacy, that would deem them a danger to children. At best, this individual would not be allowed near any children we work with while unaccompanied. And at worst, in some of the countries I work in, we would be required to report them to law enforcement with a high potential of charges being brought. Under no circumstances would they ever be permitted to pass through the gates of Brighton Academy, lest our reputation bear the burden of their known behavior. You know this person. You break bread with them. You sit across the table from them discussing the welfare of the children in this district, and you should be ashamed of yourselves for ignoring the toxicity that this so-called child advocate proudly displays. I implore you, address this very serious issue.
Point of order, Mr. President.
I'll be back in 2 weeks.
Is there really any point in us
Exactly who
sitting
you
here
are.
and
I will
listening to
share
a
how I'm a
diatribe on
recipient of
what
litigious
happened
threats
prior
designed
to my
create
time on the
fear
board?
about my financial security,
Point well taken.
how my family, my children
Thank you,
included, have been doxxed?
Thank you. This is not a place for personal attacks. This is not the place for personal attacks. If you would, we've already addressed the fact that Mr. Wilburn was not a member of this board during the monitoring report cycle. I believe that the community has already been aware. If you are going to continue to make personal attacks, then the answer is going to be no. You may have 30 seconds if you're done with that topic.
That topic. I will be back in 2 weeks to share more so our community can understand exactly who you are. I'll share how I've been the recipient of litigious threats designed to create fear around my financial security, how my family, my children,
Mr. President, is there really any point or reason or reasonable
how I've been
point on us to sit here and listen to personal attacks against me from the
how
podium?
my children have been the punchline of jokes at the expense of their skin color, all from currently active esteemed members of this board. But that's for next time. It's 2024, y'all. My God, be better humans.
The public was aware on election night.
Next is Susie Bauer.
I'm here today to address a critical issue that stands in stark violation of our board governance policy 4.10 regarding conflicts of interest. The employment of Mr. Salt serving as an employee of the Woodland Park School District while also holding the position of Board of Education President within our district raises profound concerns about the integrity of your governance. The conflict of interest policy explicitly outlines the necessity to avoid conflicts arising from personal interests that may compromise the district's policies and practices. It's evident that the unique access Mr. Salt possesses to policies, records, and district personnel of ASD 20 while holding a position in another school district is a direct conflict of interest. Our commitment to ethical and lawful conduct as outlined in policies demands undivided allegiance to the welfare and interests of our district. The potential benefit of another school district through access to confidential information with ASD 20 creates a clear conflict of interest that undermines the principles of impartiality and undivided loyalty to our own district. It's imperative that the board takes immediate action to address this violation and reaffirm the district's stance on conflicts of interest within the board. Upholding the positive image and credibility of our district demands that we ensure the undivided focus of all board members on serving the interest of ASD 20 without an external entanglement or conflicts. Mr. Salt, it's no secret how hard you and your wife have worked to unseat the board members who initially voiced concern with the blatant policy violation, and your actions show the stakeholders of D20 your lack of integrity and moral compass.
Next is Karen Guevara. That will be followed by Catherine Chukas and then Melissa. Oh, Melissa, I'm so sorry. Jajernak. I'm gonna need help with that one. But next is Karen.
To see this and not my glasses to see that. As a parent of a child in the district, I'm concerned about governance policy 410 and how the affiliations and actions of board member Mr. Wilburn are in violation of this policy. The very essence of our educational system lies in its inclusivity, fostering an environment where every child, regardless of their background, orientation, or identity, feels safe, respected, and supported. It's disheartening to learn of any affiliation that contradicts this fundamental principle. The advocates for D20's stance, advocating for the segregation of LGBTQ students to separate campuses, is not only regressive, but inherently discriminatory. We as parents entrust this board with the welfare of our education, with the welfare and education of our children. It is our collective responsibility to ensure that the leadership representing our district upholds the highest standards of ethical conduct. This includes, as outlined in the Board Governance Policy 410, an unwavering commitment to the welfare of the entire district, prioritizing the well-being of every student. The conflict of interest arising from Mr. Wilburn's affiliation with the advocates cannot be overlooked. The policy expressly states that any conflicting loyalty to advocacy or interest group should not supersede the accountability of the entire district. By being associated with an organization that actively promotes divisive and discriminatory agendas, Mr. Wilburn's allegiance becomes questionable and places the interests of our LGBTQ students at risk. I really think it's important that Mr. Wilburn publicly denounce the hateful rhetoric and sever ties with the advocates for D20. Only then can we move toward a true commitment to inclusivity and ethical conduct within our district. Thank you.
Next is Catherine Chukas.
My name is Catherine Chukas. I live in the district, Air Academy parent, SAC parent chair. My West Side animal update, bobcats. Too many of them. Also too many topics I could talk about today, but as an economist and strategist, my comments are about item 10. I urge the board members to recommend option A based upon reviewing the packet tonight, as well as the MLO election results from November. As you're learning from district leaders, our mill levy overrides, or MLOs, are fixed dollars, not fixed mills. So the governor's comments back in December are not relevant to D20, as they would be to a fixed mill tax entity like a fire district or a metro district or someplace else in the state. So with option A, you already have good news for voters. You are reducing their mills. Communicate that. 5.1 mills reduction is a big deal. Be the heroes. District 20 saved you 5.1 mills because we are a fixed dollar assessor, but don't do any more. If you reduce temporarily by 1 mill next year, your tax-sensitive voters, who mostly live in Black Forest, will complain next year. It'll create chaos. It will make it a lot harder to convince those residents about why the board would ask for an MLO in the next 2 years. As we're paying off the bond in the next 2 and 3 years, more of that bond levy is going to be reduced. So 1 mill might actually be 2 mills. So do that reduction in the same year you put the MLO on the ballot. Show voters you're doing more. Yes, board, the district still has needs for maintenance. Those haven't changed. Even with the great things we're doing with PISMIP at the Air Force Academy, there's still $60 million in maintenance elsewhere in the district that the board has a responsibility to direct that there are going to be funds for. Maybe the next MLO isn't a fixed $35 million, but $25 million. So maybe those, when we ask for it, it's not going to be 7 mills, might be 6 mills on that MLO. So in that year, if you've reduced it by 2 and you're going up by 6, you've only gone up by 4. If it's a 3-year ramp up, that first year, you're going up by 0, right? Because it would be 2 mills and then 4 mills and then 6 mills. So vote for option A and save something like option B for January 2025, just before you put an MLO on the.
Time's up.
Our next speaker is Melissa. Melissa, I'm so sorry. I don't know how to pronounce your last name.
Oh, good. It's pronounced like there's an E at the end.
Oh,
Durgance.
Durgance.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Academy District 20 Board. My name is Melissa Durgance. I'm a D20 resident and grandparent here to speak on the puzzling conflict of interest in Mr. Aaron Salt's dual roles as board president and COO of Woodland Park School District. How can we expect unbiased decisions, especially in staff hiring and funding? When it comes to recruiting teachers, are we comfortable with the risk of Mr. Salt favoring one district over the other? For example, it would be like a referee playing for the opposing team. And regarding grants and funding, with insider knowledge in one district, isn't there a risk of tilting the playing field? Board policy GP 4.11 isn't just a suggestion, it's a safeguard against these types of conflicts. Yet we're in a situation akin to a tightrope walk over ethical boundaries. We're not here to question Mr. Salt's dedication, but serving 2 districts, that's a balancing act fraught with potential biases. Our community deserves a board making decisions solely for Academy District 20's benefit. In conclusion, while Mr. Salt juggles his roles, let's not gamble with our students' futures. It's time to address these conflicts with the seriousness they deserve. Let's prioritize our D20 children above all. Thank you.
We have 2 more speakers, Laura Furia, and then she will be followed by Emily Vonachin, who's our final speaker.
Good evening. Today I stand before you with a deep sense of concern regarding the recent deviations from Board Governance Policy 4.10. The violations that have surfaced during the monitoring period raise profound questions about the ethical conduct and impartiality of certain board members, most notably President Salt and Director Wilburn. The required commitment to representing and serving the entire school district seems to have been blatantly compromised. On the Advocates for D20 website, Mr. Wilburn is listed as one of the 5 team members, and he's identified himself as a founder many times, including on his campaign website. Other members of this team have previously been noted to have met with former Superintendent Gregory and Communication Officer Allison Cortez to propose changes to district policies which would hinder the rights of the LGBTQ community, such as trying to ban trans students from using gender-neutral bathrooms, as well as suggesting that the LGBTQ students be segregated into their own school. The involvement of board members Salt, Wilburn, Cons, and Shandy with Advocates for D20 Kids, where Discord chats document the plan to fire district personnel for not agreeing with their anti-LGBTQ ideas, is a clear violation of this policy, amongst others. Mr. Salt's November 2023 attendance at the Leadership Institute School Board and Education Policy Summit, where Ted Misch instructed school boards to fire their superintendents, legal and communication teams, and penalize unionized staff members, is particularly egregious. It's evident that these alignments have influenced decision-making and actions, potentially neglecting the values and needs of a significant portion of our student body and parents. The reported connections on board members Salt, Wilburn, Cons, and Shandy to groups known for their aggressive agendas against district personnel, coupled with the potential involvement in strategy sessions aimed at altering the district's leadership, cast a shadow over the integrity of our governance. The responsibility to prioritize the welfare and interests of all students and stakeholders in ASD 20 must supersede any external affiliations or personal agendas. It's essential that the board takes immediate steps to address these violations and reaffirm its commitment to serving the entire district. Thank you.
Our final speaker is Emily Vonachin.
Hello, my name is Emily. I have 2 elementary school children in the district. So combined, I have advocated for 2 children with neurodiversities for 9 years. As a parent and taxpayer, I have deep reservations for the proposed district-wide ESA program. The concept of ESAs was introduced in the spring of 2023 by Mr. Salt, and at that time, Mr. Gregory was adamantly against the proposal. Characterizing ESAs as a solution for our dire SPED challenges is nothing short of charlatanism. Instead of chasing the illusionary promise of ESAs to fix a complex and systemic problem, we need to focus on the comprehensive, inclusive solution. This is not a quick fix. Labeling ESAs as a remedy for our SPED needs is political quixotism. Rather than diverting resources away from our already crippled system, we need to focus on meaningful district reform that addresses the multifaceted needs of the SPED community. And lastly, ESAs lack sound research and scholastic examination. The facts show, if you actually looked at them, that 4 out of 6 state ESA programs are still in their infancy. Sorry, it's been a 10-hour work shift for me. And the initial audits still require further collection of data, creating a district microcosm of state ESAs when Colorado has not passed legislative policy, which you all know, especially Mr. Salt, is putting the horse before the cart. Thank you.
Thank you. We need a motion to approve Resolution 12-24 mill levy certification for calendar year 2024 collection.
Moved. Second.
Discussion, please. Superintendent Haber.
Ms. Becky Allen, CFO.
You don't need it yet. I'll tell you when.
Great job, Vanna.
Just remember, I'm a former math teacher, all right? So I have to go back to my roots in explaining things. You know that the Senate bill that was passed in November, property tax relief for 2023, delayed the changes that were put into place, delayed things. We would typically have certified the mill levy back in December. In December, I simply gave you an informational presentation of where things stood at that time, did not have the final assessed valuation, etc. So now I have that, so I'd like to update you with where things are. Just a terminology piece, and this mixed me up for a while till I got my feet under me when I was a new CFO. You will often see 2 different years labeling the same property taxes. So the property taxes that we are about to get bills for are from the 2023 tax year. They are also referred to as 2024 collection year because that's when the county is collecting the taxes. So that's why you'll see sometimes CY is referred to as collection year, and it always corresponds to the tax year of the preceding calendar year. Where did we end up? On the bottom left in purple, you will see the assessed valuation that I used as our best guess back in December. Remember, I told you, I promise I did not have the right number. It just would not be possible. I'd have a better chance at hitting that big Powerball. So what you can see above is what the actual assessed valuation came in at. It is an increase of 24.2% over last year. Certainly, you can see some of the mitigation efforts in terms of lowering the residential assessment rate, in terms of lowering or increasing the exemptions, because we know that some folks have 30% increases in their assessed value or in their actual value. Some have 40%, 50%. So this is a summary slide that shows you basically what the options are that we discussed last time. To give you a sense of just how to orient yourself to this slide, the gray column in the middle represents the calendar year that the levy that was 53.03. We already received our bills for that. This is what you certified a whole year ago in December. What you have in yellow and green are two options. And you'll notice for number 1, number 2, number 3, that's our total program levy. It's 27 mils no matter what. The abatement levy, that is something that is established by the assessor's office. It's the same for option A and B. Our operating override levy, that's our mill levy override. That's the 26,750,862 that we levy. That is the same for both. The bond redemption levy, you'll see it is the same for both, 10.512, which I'll show you in a moment. We typically levy what the amount is to pay the debt service. The difference between A and B, in B you have a temporary tax credit, 1 year only, and that is reducing, really tied to that debt service levy to simply collect less. Now, this is when I'm going to go ahead and just use my visual, if you don't mind. It's not very sophisticated, okay, but I'm going to try to show both. So a couple of things. If I wasn't the CFO, I would be wondering a couple of things. First of all, if you had 25 million sitting around, why did you ask for a mill levy override? Why was that on the ballot? Another thing that I would be thinking about, if you've got $25 million, why don't you put it to facilities? Why don't you put it to salaries? Why don't you put it to security? So debt service has its own fund.
Miss Allen, the micro.
For the microphone?
No, you need to get a little
no.
closer.
Okay, so that would be. I appreciate it. I don't think so. This okay? Well, that's okay. American Idol of mill levy is here. So in our debt service, that is its own fund. The only purpose for those funds is to pay off our debt payments each year. I cannot do anything else with that money. I'd love to put it to something else. I'm not allowed. So for years before I became CFO, you know, if a payment, I'm making up the numbers, was 30 million one year, maybe 36 million is collected because then that was the maximum. In an attempt to build some type of reserve, if there were some catastrophic event that would make it impossible for us to pay off the debt for that year, we would never want to default. So right now, as of January 1st, there's $25 million in that reserve. Let's slide over now and take a look at what our debt payment is this year. It's going to be 29 million. So typically we would levy 29 million. That's option A. Why did I even propose option B? Here is why. After this year, when we pay 29 million, for the next 8 years, the debt service amount falls to about 20 million per year. So for the next 8 years, calendar or collection year 25 all the way to 32, each year will be 20 million. And so I'm looking at the 25 million and saying, should the option shows you using 5 million of that savings to go ahead and put it in this middle column and bring that down, and then our savings, if you will, would pay for 1 year's payment. So basically, the option B says, look, let's take the 25 million, make it 20 instead, move that consider 5 million here and only levy 24 million. Because for the next 8 years, the annual payment will be 20 million and we'd have the 20 million here. I would not have suggested this option if the debt service payment beyond this year was still going to be 29 million. That would not make sense. But 20 million is what it is for the next 8 years. That is why I made that proposal. So I know it's not very fancy, but I just wanted to illustrate what the purpose was. The only other thing that I wanted to mention on this slide for whatever questions you have, I wanted to go ahead and give you what the impact might be. What might someone with a $500,000 home, what would they expect their tax payment to be? This is only the District 20 levy for the bond and the general fund. So if you look at the bottom, you're going to see I color coded it yellow, green, and gray. And under gray, notice I put the actual home value at 500,000. And you might say, Becky, I think you have a typo because you changed it to 650,000 for option A and B. I did that on purpose. That's a 30% increase. Most of us are, so I'm kind of acknowledging that what was 500,000 last year may be on that property tax statement, 650,000. Could be higher, maybe not that much, but it's acknowledging that those actual values went up. So what you look above then is what the tax payment would be to District 20 for that year, the whole year. So you can see option A is $1,908. Option B is a little less at $1,836. And that number is just a few dollars away from what the amount was last year that folks paid. So at this point, I know that it comes to you when you look at the board docs. I put an option A and an option B resolution, and I'd be happy to take any questions to help inform what option that you would like to put into play.
Board, any questions for Ms. Allen? So I just want to take a minute and thank you for your work on this. I know when we initially talked right after the governor's letter came out, we looked at it and said, you know, we are dollars based, not mills based. So this isn't something that we can do. We talked with Ms. Thompson about potential ramifications if we were to drop below the state statute of 27 mills. And you talked a little bit about that back in December when we would have had the normal mill certification.
Yes.
And so I just wanted to thank you for looking at a lot of different options, being able to come up with something here. Just to confirm, this is this a long-term reduction or is this a one-year reduction?
No, it would be a 1 year only temporary tax credit of the 1.809. Did I say that correctly? The 1.809, that would be for 1 year. Now we will see another drop next year in the levy for debt service because the payment will only be 20 million. So it will continue, it will fall again. And then we'll be right about 20 million and I'll just be levying that mainly from year to year because the debt service reserve, if you will, is 20 million. So we would have a catastrophic type of backup should something occur in us. You know, we would need to, again, not default on those payments. So 1 year only, but then next year it would fall again because the levy amount will be 20 million.
And then you said that the pot that we have, that 25 million reserve, can only be used to pay back debt. Is that specifically on this bond? Or I know previously you'd mentioned taking out a bank loan as a last resort. Would we be able to use that pot to help towards that reserve?
No.
Or that loan?
No, we could not. What happens is there's actually a mixture of bonds here when we talk about our payment. It's not just 2016 because remember, just like a mortgage, you might be paying on it for 30 years. So we're paying various issuances from different bond payments. And so, no, I could not all of a sudden now say, I would like to use that 25 million. I certainly wish we had that flexibility, but we do not. It can only be used to pay back. And so what would eventually happen if you had kind of a crystal ball, at some point when we start to have more debt fall off, I'm going to be coming to you again and say, I think we should use some of the fund balance in debt service because that is a way of ensuring that the taxpayers are getting the benefit of those dollars that were put in.
What would happen if these expired and we still had that reserve sitting there?
You know, that's a great question. And I'm going to be honest, I've asked it of multiple people, including the attorney we work with in Butler Snow. And because I've said, do you move it to cap? They said, no, it has to be associated with this. It's for only this purpose. So we would need to be strategic. And please know, I did reach out to RBC. They are our counsel, if you will. They're not attorneys, but financial guidance in terms of debt issuance and those types of things. I talked with the Colorado Department of Education to make sure that they did not see any type of issue with option B.
All right, thank you. Board, any questions? All right.
And Mr. Salt, one other thing, because it aligned with such a significant decrease to 20 million after this 1 year, they just saw we're just kind of using some of these funds to stair step it a little more.
So this is effectively what we'll be looking at as that bond debt comes down, or the service debt comes down, because we'll have to trickle down that reserve fund anyway. So this is a little bit of a preempt.
Yes, we will have to start to trickle that down as well. Like this, I'll hold on to it as long as I can until we start to see, because we do want that reserve. But the 25 million that's there now, like I said, it's an option to go ahead and utilize 5 million of it and give some relief to our community without causing financial harm to the district.
Thank you. Board, any discussion? I've got 2 different resolutions over here that I can read. Does someone have a preference between which? We have a motion to, I can read it, but no one's giving me anything over here. Do you guys like A or B?
You need a motion.
So we're only going to read one. A is keeping the mill levy where it is. B would be doing the additional $5 million reduction. So
I make a motion to vote on option A.
if that's, we can do that.
I second.
All right, let me pull it up. All right, thing here. All right, resolved that the Academy School District 20 Board of Education has this 4th day of January 2024 approved a total mill levy of 47.867 mills based on 2023 property values, for which property taxes will be collected in 2024. Assuming 100% collection, this levy is anticipated to provide total property tax revenue of $132,315,563, as recommended by the Chief Financial Officer and Superintendent. The certified mill levy is based on a total net assessed valuation of $2,764,233,440. School Finance Act total program mill levy has been set at 27 mills in accordance with state statute. Oh, I read too far. I can stop there. All right. Do we have a second? That's the motion. Okay. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Cons?
Aye.
Mrs. Shandy?
Aye.
Mr. Wilburn?
Aye.
Mrs. Yanez?
Aye.
Mr. Salt?
No. All right, Ms. Cortez, how many people have signed up to speak during public comment section 2?
We have 4 individuals signed up for section 2.
During this portion of public comment, speakers who are speaking on non-agenda topics or general public comment will be called to speak in order of their sign up. If a speaker does not indicate the topic on which they intend to speak, then they will follow in order of their sign up time. Those speakers who have indicated a specific general topic on which they will be commenting, the second public comment section will be limited to 60 minutes. And if you'll please give us your name and your affiliation with the district. There's a little placard up there. So just make sure that we're following. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to do this like the last 3 up on deck, 1 speaker, 2 up on deck. So our first is Sarah Spiller, and then we have C. Francis, and then Rob Rogers. So first is Sarah Spiller.
My name is Sarah Spiller, and I'm a parent in the district, a resident, and also a staff member. I stand here not just as a SPED staff member and a parent, but as someone downright angry. We're talking about education savings accounts, or ESAs, as they're some kind of panacea, backed by the likes of Brad Miller and the Leadership Institute. Let me be clear, their support is a glaring warning sign. These are the same voices that have consistently pushed agendas that undermine our public education. ESAs, they're a scam, a way to funnel our hard-earned public funds into private ventures. This is money that should be enriching our public schools, not padding the pockets of private interest. The fact that this board is even considering ESAs on the heels of a contentious, dark money-infected election is appalling. It's opportunistic and short-sighted. To my fellow community members, I urge you to see this for what it is, a direct attack on the foundation of our children's education. Get involved, challenge this board, and fight for our public schools. We can't stand by and watch as our schools are stripped of the resources that they desperately need. Thank you for your attention. Let's not forget our children's education is at stake. We must act not just as observers, but as defenders of a strong, equitable public education system. Thank you.
Next is C. Francis.
Good evening. As a father, my main responsibility is to protect my children from harm. As a father to a little girl, the worst thing I can think of is her innocence being violated. It being violated by a grown man is my nightmare. But that's our reality. It's been 3 months since Mr. Wilburn decided to read explicit sexual passages to young children at the student forum held at Chinook Trail Middle School.
Sir, we've
My
talked about the
11-year-old
fact
daughter
that
left this
personal
event
attacks are not
completely
going to be
distraught, and
taken
nothing
here.
has been done to acknowledge the trauma
Sir.
they caused. Yeah.
We're not doing personal attacks here, as was mentioned earlier. Thank you.
For 3 months, there's been no acknowledgement, no apology, no attempt to address the distress caused to these kids, the lack of accountability or remorse for subjecting impressionable children to explicit content is unacceptable. I implore this board to acknowledge the gravity of this situation, not just for my daughter, but for the children whose innocence was recklessly disregarded. Our children trust us as parents and as the community to provide a safe and nurturing environment. We are supposed to trust you, the board representing our school district, to keep our kids safe. Instead, we are witnessing the very people entrusted to keep them safe inflicting the harm. The trauma caused by these actions can't be overstated, and it's the responsibility of this board to ensure that incidents like this never happen again. I demand a sincere acknowledgement of the harm caused, a public apology, and a commitment to safeguarding our children's emotional well-being moving forward. Thank you.
We have 2 final speakers. The next speaker is Rob Rogers, followed by our final speaker, which is Bernadette Guthrie.
My name is Rob Rogers. I'm a parent in the district, and I also live in the district as well. So on the December 14th board meeting, Director Wilburn lauded Liz Murray's keynote speech, the CASB conference, declaring it a must-hear for every American. Yet he holds a starkly contrasting view on Push by Sapphire, a book that parallels Murray's theme of overcoming adversity. To illustrate this discrepancy, consider this passage from Murray's memoir, Breaking Night, a book found in several of our district's libraries. And I told Ma about the time he helped me with my zipper privately in Tara's room, his fingers scraping against my skin. I couldn't move throughout the whole thing. I froze and could only stare up at the wooden ceiling fan, listening to the click it made on each go-around, counting them as he thrust his, and I won't continue out of consideration for those who may find the account of her lived experience traumatic to hear. This passage, with its broad portrayal of trauma and resilience, mirrors the themes in Push, which Director Wilburn and others in our community have condemned. This begs the question, did Liz Murray write a work of pornography? If not, why is her story celebrated while Push is vilified? These attempts at selective censorship are not about moral guardianship. It's performative culture war nonsense that intentionally undermines the integrity of our educational values. Returning to the topic of free speech, President Salt's recent decision to remove a speaker for profanity sets a concerning precedent. Now, while I may disagree with the speaker, his right to express himself, even in strong language, is fundamental in a democratic society. This is not just my stance. This has been upheld by numerous courts. The government cannot and should not dictate public discourse. Our democracy hinges on the ability to speak freely and directly to those in power, even if that means profanity is appropriate for the situation, which at times it is. This is not vulgarity for vulgarity's sake. It's a declaration of an unwavering commitment to free speech, because none of you will tell me what word.
Our final speaker is Bernadette Guthrie.
Good evening. First, I'd like to welcome Mrs. Yanez. I'm grateful to have a dedicated educator serve on the D20 board. This week, I had a scheduled meeting with Superintendent Haberer to discuss the incident that occurred on October 4th at the Student Forum, where Mr. Wilburn recited graphic sexual passages about rape and incest from the book Push to Young Children, an incident that left my child and others emotionally scarred. I was surprised when I walked into the meeting and saw that in addition to Ms. Haberer, several other cabinet members were in attendance as well, all there to help create a support plan for my child as a result of Mr. Wilburn's actions. By my rough calculations, that meeting cost D20 taxpayers close to $600, and I'm not even taking into account the prep or debrief, which would push it into the four-figure mark. They explained that because the incident involved an elected official, all they were able to do is create a plan of support for my child. Let that sink in. Due to the board's refusal to acknowledge what happened to my daughter and Mr. Wilburn's unwillingness to admit wrongdoing, our highly compensated cabinet, as well as our school's administrative team, are working on a safety plan so my middle schooler feels comfortable attending school. After I left the meeting, I received a call thanking me for my time, but also discouraging me from continuing to talk about this publicly further. As I said at the last meeting, I will not drop this matter, no matter how uncomfortable it makes you, and I'm not breaking any rules. As a parent, it is my duty to advocate for the safety and well-being of my child, and I will continue to do just that until this is resolved. I once again implore this board to reconsider the stance of denying wrongdoing and placing blame on those you represent. My family will settle for nothing less than a public apology and a commitment from Mr. Wilburn that he will not step foot on the CTMS property during his board tenure. Thank you.
Superintendent Haberer, do you have any clarifications or next steps?
Oh, I do not.
Moving on to the debrief. We have a card for Mr. Luke Lewis, whose birthday is tomorrow, but he is not here. So happy birthday, Luke. All right, board, was our business this evening focused on activities that promote and honor our mission statement, our belief statements, and our global end statement that reminds us all students will have the knowledge, skills, and character necessary for successful transition to the next level, and upon graduation will be fully prepared for success? All right. We are not adjourned, but we are ending the public portion of the meeting. The board has an executive session this evening, and so we'll be moving. We need a motion that the Board of Education convene into executive session to confer with an attorney for the board for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions related to such matters pursuant to CRS 24-6-4024B without compromising the purpose for which the executive session is authorized. A particular matter to be discussed is education savings accounts.
Moved.
Second.
While in executive session, the board will not adopt any proposed policy, resolution, regulation, or take any formal action. Lastly, the Colorado Open Meetings Law does not require the board to make any record of the executive session, CRS 24-6-402 2D.52B. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Cons?
Aye.
Mrs. Shandy?
Aye.
Mr. Wilburn?
Aye.
Mrs. Yanez?
Aye.
Mr. Salt?
Aye. The executive session will be held in the superintendent's office, and invited to this executive session are Ms. Haberer, Ms. Cons, Mr. Salt, Ms. Shandy, Mr. Wilborn, and Ms. Yanez. Also invited are Ms. Becky Allen, Dr. Susan Field, Dr. Belinda Lujan Lindsay, and Ms. Tanya Thompson. The regular portion of the meeting is over. We will take a quick break to clear the room.